do the best that we can to provide for the welfare and the benefits of this county. Help us always understand that we're seeking your wisdom from above, and not the earthly wisdom of men. Keep us in a frame of mind so that we are not looking at this for gain or for any other malicious intent, but help us to do the best that we can to provide for these people that work for the county and also for the taxpayer that pays for these benefits and these salaries. Be with us always. Help us to always understand that all good things come from you. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I don't know that we actually have anybody sign up for, to speak. Anybody want to speak? Going once, going twice. All right. Thanks. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into the workshop, and in a moment I'm going to move to suspend the rules so we can begin those efforts. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead. I think there's one thing we can knock out relatively quickly, and I think we can stay within our rules to do it, and that is the ARPA items.
Those moved to July.
So, say it again.
At the last meeting, I thought they moved those to July.
We did.
You moved them to July?
Yeah, this is just strictly to
So
work
we
on
couldn't-
salaries.
yeah, so it wasn't at the meeting, so.
Well, it can be, they changed it to discuss anything, but I think at the last meeting, they said to leave the unappropriated portions unappropriated and deal with the ARPA in July after the budget was approved.
So.
Or July or
well, I don't
August.
want to do, I probably shouldn't do it if it's not, if it isn't noticed.
Well, they noticed any and all workshop items, we didn't bring the information because the ARPA was
That's
voted to
fine,
move
that's
forward.
fine. Go ahead.
I'd like to move to suspend the rules, just only because Millersville was here. I thought they was, we were going to be doing that. Talking about ARPA stuff, but.
Well,
Just let them speak.
we don't, I mean, we can, they didn't, I don't know if they had a chance to sign up to speak, but I'll go ahead and, we can just have folks sign up to speak just like we would, or they can just come and speak just like we would if they signed up.
Okay.
That's good with that. Yeah,
Public
public
comment.
comments, yeah. I'm fine with that. Without objection, I'm just gonna let the folks from Millersville come up and
guys be
speak
okay
as
with
though
that?
they were, as though it was public comments.
So, we're here, you know, obviously for the,
Could you state your
Chief
name?
Brian Morris,
Thank you, and your residence, just so I'm doing it under.
1246 School Highway.
All right, thank you, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, we're here to, you know, express our concerns over the money. Obviously, we would like to have a portion of it for our sewer infrastructure. We're under, you know, new administration, obviously, but when I took over recently as city manager, we were getting reports from Metro of excess waste. They did a study back in 2023 and identified a lot of the areas that we could improve on with this money. So the grant that we're looking to get is a $994,000 grant. The money that, you know, obviously we would get from you guys would supplement our portion of that matching grant. So we could do a lot of sewer repairs that are needed, much needed. Any questions?
We can discuss public comments. There's no-
Okay.
But, thank you, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
I would just like to say.
Can you state your name and
Yes.
where you're at, where you live?
Absolutely. My name is Elisa Hewling. I am one of the city commissioners in Millersville. I live at 1335 Library Drive.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to come and stand for my citizens and humbly ask you guys to consider supporting us or giving us a portion of this ARPA money. It would definitely carry our city a lot further. We're like I said, we're under a new administration and we're all pulling together to help our city move forward. And this would be a way for us to, if we were able to have this money, to be able to get a grant to help us to actually do some corrective means on our sewer that could carry us a long way. It, like you said, has been neglected. We apologize for that, but this gift, if you could consider giving it to us, would be a great blessing. So we just thank
I let them speak, so I'll let you speak.
Thank you, I appreciate it. My name is Charlie Hama, I live at 143 Golden Circle, Huntersville, Tennessee, 3705. And I just want to say that the Huntersville Utility District, I was here at 5 meetings and waited through all of the long meetings and was never given the grace to be able to come up and speak at the beginning. And I'm sure that if he had known that this was going to be discussed, because I believe at the last meeting, one of the commissioners said, no, we can discuss this other stuff. And then the other commissioner said, no, we're just doing salaries to standpoint. And I understand Millersville is under new administration. They may not be aware of this, but they do already have the grant contract, and I am for the money going to them, but I would also like consideration for Huntersville utility districts because they didn't have the opportunity at the time. They had him and they provided all the information. So if we're gonna discuss ARPA, give the opportunity to everyone. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this is why I didn't sign up to speak,
That's
because I
okay,
didn't know
that's
this was going to
okay.
be on the agenda. I'll keep it short and sweet. It was stated when the motion was made to put this on the agenda and for consideration that this was to offset any rate increases for the citizens of Hendersonville. And there's a rate increase, I think, went into effect June 1st, another one going into effect in July 1st. And you give this money to Hendersonville, somebody should make it a condition that the rates don't increase, because to give the money and then double dip and then have the citizens pay for it anyway is a joke. Thank you. Laura Baker, 424 AB Wade Road.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, now, any other, because I kind of went a little bit off script there. Okay, thank y'all.
Chairman Eric's gonna pull up the actual notice. I think it said any and all 2025.
The notice says
budget.
the purpose of this meeting is to discuss any and all items related to fiscal year 2025 budget, period.
I mean, that could include, here's, since there's a little back and forth on it, I'm gonna make a motion to consider, before we go outside of rules here, I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and consider the ARPA in this meeting. So that's my motion.
I don't think, if I may, I don't think a decision or vote needs to be had if it's already been pushed to another date, though.
Well,
That
that's
needs to
why,
be very
that's why
clear.
I'm doing that, so
Okay.
because it was, I wasn't at the previous budget meeting, and I understand that, I just kind of missed that. I understand that the statement was to push it, that's why I'm gonna go ahead.
That, all I'm saying is just discuss is fine, the voting on anything just
But we would
can't
not be
happen.
able to vote on it? You don't think we should, even though
No.
that's part of,
Because you
all right. and
announced
then
a
I
new
don't
meeting.
wanna waste time discussing on it. If you're gonna say, if you think it's ill-advised to vote on it, I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but I don't
Because
wanna-
other people may have attended knowing that a
That's
vote
fair.
could occur.
That's fair.
Because you
Okay.
guys voted to move it on to
That's fair.
August after.
We'll
the
just, we
approval.
won't,
Now
we
it's
won't
being
consider it
discussed.
then. Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules and begin the workshop.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Boyd, I understand you were kind of the primary driver of this. If you, Mr. Long, want to go ahead and start where you want to start with respect to the cross-county salary discussion.
I assume everybody else had a chance to do their homework and look also, so
Can you hear the first
everybody
one?
else wants to.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I was just asked to bring data the way you could compare salaries across the county from the last meeting. So we put some tables together the way you could look at it. That's kind of the
Yeah.
extent that I'm involved. But if you look table 1, we're calling source table. What we put together was, it has your department, employee, how that, minus sign, there's all those, I don't know what those, close all those up. Close that one up, put that, the other one, they should be open, I would open it, okay. You should have your department. There's the employee's title, this is the job class, based on the last salary survey, this is the years of service. The current salary right now at the ending of 24, the last one we have, 25, the change, the percentage change from this number and the percentage change from the beginning of the year. That's the data we were asked to get. The second one here is we filtered it by class to see if it would make it any easier if you scroll all the way, scroll down. There you go. There's like class 3 is your lowest class, and I think class 15 is your highest class. It has employees' numbers. Then it's got their salary sorted from highest to lowest, the way you can look at it, see if that would be helpful. The next one is the same data again, except for we removed a couple of large groups that kind of have their own salary survey, which is, their salaries are in large groups together, which is your EMTs, paramedics, your correction officers and deputies. We removed that from this group to make it a little easier to compare. And if you look at some table format, and we also went by for each one of the classes and highlighted the largest salary in yellow, the second largest one in orange, and then the third one in bright blue, to see if that would help you distinguish what you're trying to look for. And then the last two is just the EMS and the sheriff. And the same thing, they're sorted by class and by years of service. And I kind of went through it really quickly and not in a lot of detail, but you guys had copies of these for, I guess, about a week now, except for the color coding, and I was asked this morning if we could identify the highest one, so I tried to do that today.
And I thought that would help. So to bring it back to why I asked for this, when I look across the way and I look at similar job class, actually not similar, but the exact same job class, department to department, some of these classes have up to $35,000 in range. So we're not, I mean, the job classes came from our job survey. And so that's what I wanted to do, because I've heard from a lot of people, not a lot, some people, some departments have said they're not getting as much as others because we've taken this deep dive. Everybody knows what everybody makes now if they take a look. So that's where I'm, why I asked to do this cross look, and we discussed that. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this. I sent everybody the email. The total, and the reason I wanted to take this time, the total of our raises and our additional employees is $18 million. So the additional employees plus the additional salary alone is 7 million of that 18 million. So I just thought that with that big of a number that we're talking about, we should at least see if everybody's getting their fair share or how even it is or where we're at. It's a lot of money.
So is there anything specifically you want to highlight, Ms. Boyd?
Have you had a chance to look at the table with the filters?
Yeah, I've looked at a couple of them now. I mean, what would you like to highlight?
I thought we could go through the job classes, or
Okay.
if you're not interested, I'm good to
I mean-
approve it all. I mean, let's just get it,
Well,
let's go.
well, I mean, I
don't know.
I was comfortable with where we were at last. You know, I'll explain my rationale. I was comfortable with where we were at previously, and I do recognize that there are some discrepancies. But to your point, that there's a range from where, you know, where an equivalent job class might be. And there's the salary study that we used for the, I think, 5 or 6 largest counties when we were placing these, there also was a range, right? We were, at least as I was kind of looking at these and we were stacking them, looking at the 50th percentile to the 25th or the 75th percentile. So there's something of a range even within there. I'm pretty sure every single, there may be some that don't match this, but the vast majority of where we placed salaries fell within that range. So are they exactly equivalent? No, but they're kind of within a range, that we decided was acceptable.
But we
Now-
only looked at certain ones, certain jobs. We didn't look at every job, obviously. So I was just looking across classes.
Right, so that's what I'm asking, like, are there any of them that you want to particularly like pull out and like?
Well, if we could just, I mean, I think it's easy. Let's go to the lower end, because smaller numbers seem to help people, I guess. Job class 3,
I have a question first.
You can just
Would it
do
be
the floor.
easier
Yes,
to
please.
look at, compare the budgeted actual, what's budgeted to actual per department, like on a higher level first, or you can drill down?
fine.
I mean,
What would be easier to do it on class 3 and then work our way up, because there's less discrepancy in that area whenever we were looking at it earlier.
I'm just talking about like at a high level, comparing what was
Oh, you just wrote it
budgeted to
down.
the actuals,
You did.
and just
Okay,
seeing
gotcha.
how big of an increase there might be. If departments are staying flat or down, or how much, which departments are like really high
On
above
that-
that, then you might, I don't know.
On the sheet right here, I pulled out the paramedics, EMTs, and larger groups that are the same, and I highlighted the largest ones, if that would help. Because I was asked today to highlight the largest one in each class, so I did that if you want to look at it first, if it'd be easier. And it does start with 3 on, if you look at what we did on this one to make it a little easier, is we took the average, like if you look right here, This is the average for all your threes with the same year of service, and that's the difference that each employee's off the average, if that helps. I'm not really sure on this data exactly how you're wanting to look at it.
So
And then whoever's the largest one, like this one's $57,000 for 5 years, that's the largest one, and then the next one's the orange one, the blue one.
I guess I'm gonna make this general comment before we dive into this, and I think, look, we've got the time, set the timeline, we'll dive into it, fine, but here's my thought on this, and please argue with me if you disagree. But, so we did this, you're correct, we didn't do, laterally across the county, you're correct about that, this kind of starts to do that. But we did look at the best we could, like by market. There were some roles that, you know, where we didn't really have a good comparison for the market, but we did kind of the best we could. So my take on it, that's why I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, is that that's probably as low as we should begin to go in this role, that we're sitting at on the commission. And I'll explain why. We could go line by line by line and adjust everybody specifically, but once we vote on this, within a major line item, a major category, David, correct me if I'm wrong, the department heads can move that money around anyway. So
In the same line item.
yeah, in the same line item. So there's a point where, Ms. Boyd, to your point, I'm comfortable with a couple things. One, I'm comfortable that where we place these salaries is within market. Now, where they are within that market and how they are laterally, maybe there's some questions. The other thing I'm comfortable with is that the discussions that we're having with the schools right now, notwithstanding, where we are, even though these are substantial increases, and David, please correct me, this doesn't put us on a trajectory at this point toward deficit spending.
Right now, we have the same, based on the way you got the taxes potentially levied, you've got the same disparity in revenue and expenditures that you did last year. And all else being held equal, we brought in significant amount of reserves last year. So nothing changes, no.
So that's my point here. So we're able to give increases at the major line item level on a way that, you know, we're pretty comfortable that we'll be able to do it in the coming years in a consistent way and not put us on a path to a tax increase. Now, the reason why I think, you know, if we start to drill down and go individual line by individual line, knowing that department heads could change those anyway, here's the thing, there's some degree that's theirs to negotiate with their people. I still view this as like the board of directors here, not the HR department for the individual departments. You know, David, argue with me here. I mean,
No, you're right. What I was saying is all these worksheets we're including in the back of the budget just helps you work up your line items. Those departments within those line items,
Yep.
each individual line item can make changes at any and all points.
But this is also really, look, this is really useful to the, if I'm somebody working an admin position in one department, I can now see this. I mean, I can go and look at this and I can see it. I'm not saying it's wasted work, it's not at all. I can go see this and I can go, you know, talk to my supervisor and say, hey, you know, some similar, you know, like for like. I'm just saying that is the role of the department heads and their leadership more than it is ours. And I'm comfortable with where we're at currently. I would have liked to have made a couple changes to the sheriff's line item, but I'm not going to bring that up again. I lost the vote, so you know it is what it is. So I'm comfortable with this as is, and that's why I'm kind of like handing to you if you want to point out specific ones to consider. Otherwise, I mean, I'd just like to move it along.
So, and I'm willing to go where you want to go. But I think that what we've done is not raise up to market. I think that if we were to go down through here and we were to say, well, we raised that up to market, how is it that everybody needed such even numbers to get to market? that would be one thing. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're gonna bring them up to market, but it's a very even across the board amount. Kinda interesting, but if you think that's market. But I would say that we haven't looked across the departments, and maybe, maybe the Westmoreland Library did not know that they had an employee at $22,000 when that class is pays up to 52,000. Maybe they didn't know there was such a gap, or maybe we've held their budget back because I've been told they didn't want, somebody didn't want to come in and complain enough or whatever. I'm just saying we got an employee at a very low end, we got an employee at high end, but if you're happy overall, I'm not gonna sit here and go through it, if that's what you wanna do. I'm just saying we're growing by $18 million, our biggest cost center, and if we don't have time for it,
I mean,
I gotta vote, y'all gotta vote, we can go.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, in our last budget meeting, Commissioner Boyd, you requested this, so would like to hear from you and we'll talk through some of these things, as far as like any disparities or lack of parity between one classification or class to another one, and what can be done about it, because I guess my concern is unless you're reducing, you can't just keep adding. So if this weights and balances aren't equal, we can't just keep on making it higher and higher.
I agree.
So what do we need to bring lower, or where is there
Like,
disparity?
if we just look at this, and we'll just do this one example, if you don't like it. So if we look at the one that's the yellow, which is the highest, we have given that employee an additional raise to bring them up to whatever 11% is gonna bring them to some market I don't know that we ever looked at receptionists, but maybe we did and I missed that. But then.
I don't think we did reception.
Can I talk about that one in particular?
And then, I looked at the lowest there, which is line number 9, and we just gave them a straight 5% cost of living. And they're our lowest employee in that class. So we're giving our highest employee a big addition to some market that we didn't discuss. But our lowest employee, who's probably one of the lowest employees in the whole county, we didn't give them an additional bump up. So there's these disparities in there of these specific ones that are in this detail that pop out.
Mr. Long?
This particular one, and let me just say a couple of things. One, this is from the earlier salary survey, so it's not captured several new positions. It's not captured changes for, say, if you change the duties of your employees or requirements. None of that's been captured, so this is at least 3 years old. But this one in particular, the 11.5 came because the 5% that everybody asked for was flat, and then some asked for an additional 6. This one's the 5, and this employee actually received ARPA, so that's to make up the 5 in the ARPA.
Yeah.
So that's
So that's part of that is
there are
burning off the ARPA.
on that particular one, but some of the others probably aren't. But I can tell you what that one is, because I did look at that one the day after you asked me to make sure.
I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, I get it. I mean.
So I would say that the lowest ones, I'm not just coming to say cut people's salaries, I'm coming to say that, we have people on the low end too that obviously we did not look down that low to say, is that market? I clearly remember 4 weeks ago in here, you telling me that nobody would make less than $50,000. Remember us having that conversation?
I don't.
And here we have
I don't remember
22.
saying that anybody's gonna, I don't
Well,
remember saying that.
Anyway, that was my whole point, is I wanted to hit both ends.
So what do you suggest? And by the way, I was trying to give more to the libraries, but what do you want to?
I just wanted to bring it up so we could see it.
Can I make a comment? I mean, just, you talked about cutting salaries. I want to clarify that. We're not
Oh, yeah,
cutting
everybody's
salaries.
getting money.
Because this is like a great increase for everybody, which is what we talked about doing. So it's like you're not cutting a salary. It's just like, what is the, so just want to clarify that.
I mean, Metro only did 4%. 4%, that was it.
I think Gallatin did one.
So is there a specific thing that we want to? I see the discrepancy you're talking about. I don't know, but this is where I start to become somewhat uncomfortable, because I don't know. This is a very different position than this, and I'm looking like within these library positions, like comparing here to here is a little bit different than the comparing across these, right? Like you compare across these, are minus this one, that's is at 22, they're all pretty close to each other. You know, and because like for like, it's Gallatin Library, Hendersonville Library, Westmoreland Library, you know, and these are all pretty close to each other. An EMA receptionist, maybe that's a, you know, that's just a very different, that's just a very different job. So,
Can I speak to that?
go ahead.
So you'll understand about this position, and I think Beth understands this. She's not a receptionist. She is an administrative assistant. Okay? She pays all the bills, she does grant work, paying those, she does a lot. That should be reclassified as an administrative assistant, but she's at the front of the building. Okay? Because that's what we had. It morphed from a part-time position and a position from 911, EMS and EMA into an EMA employee who sits at the front, but she's my administrative assistant, period. Now, there's a discrepancy that we see, I don't know why. You're showing her at 790.75 when her actual salary is 54,722. You're showing 11.05%. Her actual raise is 5.10%.
That's what Mr.
Yeah.
Moore was talking
Includes
about.
ARPA.
So the actual raise is 5.
The county's making up the ARPA too.
Right.
He just made that point.
Yeah, I got that, but I just
If
want to
it's
say
the
that,
ARPA money.
but can we reclassify that so you don't get that? And a simple matter here is, all you gotta do is call us and ask.
Well, that's what I was saying, these were done by the salary people 3 years ago,
Yes, sir.
and they may need to be revisited, but we didn't change any of these are the ones that they did 3 years ago.
Yes, sir. But I would like to ask if we could change that to an administrative assistant so it reflects that. And seriously, commissioners, all you gotta do is call and ask questions, and we'll give you the answer. Okay? Thank you.
So there any others, I mean, are there any others you want to go through, Ms. Boyd, or Mr. Schwein, did you have a comment?
I spent a lot of time on this today, and I took one of David's spreadsheets and made some additions to it, modified it, and I wasn't picking on EMS, I just found that was a
Everybody
good
see
one.
how colorful this is? I don't want this beautiful thing y'all can't see.
And what I did is I added 4 columns at the end, which were, the one in blue is the total, the one in orange is overtime, column AZ is salary plus longevity plus overtime, where it occurs, and then I had the fully loaded column. Now, one of the first things I noticed when I was going through this, if you'll look at line number 42, there's 3 blocks in red. Those are 3 positions that are asking for an increase of $42,000 to $44,000 for the year.
An increase in salary?
Increase in salary. It would take it from 50, the first one would take it from 53,400 to 101,545.
David, I think those employees in the past got overtime, and they're saying that these employees should be exempt, so they want to increase their salaries but take away their overtime. I believe that's the reason.
Okay, if, that would be news to me, so.
Well, that's what they told us for that day, I believe, but I can't
Yeah,
swear without
I
asking.
believe I recall that conversation.
But we may need to verify, I may be wrong.
They're ALS captains.
We have folks here, you want to make a comment on that?
I believe that's what that was,
Go ahead.
David.
Yeah, so whenever we presented the budget originally, the 3 ALS captains, we did discuss moving them to salary personnel. Currently, they do get overtime, and oftentimes they are passing their supervisors for the cost of that. So it's an effort to start dealing with compression in our department.
Okay, well,
So go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so the bottom line here, I think the way to answer this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that on net, you're not actually asking for a $42,000 increase, because much of that, and potentially more than $42,000 was coming from overtime. So that individual was not making $53,000. You're gonna reclassify them from an hourly wage to a salary position, and you're gonna bump them up to reflect the total amount of hours that they have been working.
I think it was, so we had to capture the ARPA, which was 12%, and then 10% was on top of that. So they're gonna net about a 10% raise for fiscal year 25.
Okay, so the ARPA is going away when?
This year.
July.
When, on June?
Yeah, we're burning all this off. It's not, no.
I mean, the ARPA, the hourly that went to each
Yes,
person?
it is.
Okay.
We burned off we shot to burn off half of it last year, and then we're burning off the other half this year, thereabouts.
And we're providing it,
Yeah,
in
we're
different ways.
backfilling it with county revenue.
okay, so the ARPA was for risk that didn't exist prior to COVID.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you're not wrong. That's what the justification for it was.
Yeah.
This is why I've been very harsh about this. But the employees have built that into themselves for 36 months, so it was effectively a salary.
Can I talk about the ARPA
Go
too,
ahead.
to make
Sure.
sure? Because ARPA can be used for risk that way, so it was allowed, that's the way it was decided to be used. But what originally spurred the discussion for ARPA, and this was before the current EMS directors, when Mr. Miller was here, he came to the Budget Committee and Commission, and the, I think ultimately the Commission, they had significant turnover at the time, and were afraid they were gonna have to shut stations if they didn't give some raises. Well, because we could use ARPA for risk-based premiums, they used the risk-based premiums, which brought up their salary and stopped some of the turnover. So there was a turnover at the time the ARPA was used for EMS. And the Sheriff's Department followed suit, but it originated with the EMS service.
So it really wasn't for risk, it was just to increase their pay?
Well, it was because there was huge turnover, and because you could give them that, they allowed out of the ARPA for the risk supplement, they gave them the risk supplement to
Right.
temporarily stop the turnover, because at the time, I think it was everywhere, in the medical fields, a lot of turnover increased during COVID because a lot of people were.
They use one-time funds for a permanent salary increase, which the comptroller says don't do, and so we're fixing that problem.
So is there?
And I'm not saying it was a good move, but I'm saying that was the reasoning that they did it.
Well, I'd like to push back on Chief Poss a little bit, because all of the overtime that I'm seeing here runs from the low 20s to the mid-30s in the most extreme of cases. And so we're saying these three captains still need to be increased. We take away, we put them on salary, and whatever overtime they had, looks like one had 32,000. Now he's gonna get a salary increase of 42,000, but his overtime will be taken away. You know, I went online to see what the paramedics, and I know he's not a paramedic, but what the paramedics average in Middle Tennessee was, and it's almost 46,000 right now as of May 28th. The range runs from 41 to 51,000. And middle level is 34,000 or 1639 an hour. So
Time out.
Go ahead.
Time out. Where did those numbers come from?
Being
Because those
A1.
are totally inaccurate. I'm sorry.
Well, that's
I
that's
need
what
the
you
evidence
say.
on that, please.
But it's online, and they did it through a
They
survey.
are inaccurate.
So, go ahead, Mr. Mansfield.
Okay.
You have your hand up.
Well, no, I mean, just, I guess, I didn't have my hand up, but
Oh,
if
sorry.
the county mayor's saying they're inaccurate, I guess, in questioning what his data's coming from, I guess, where's the inaccuracy?
Well, I would like to see that data.
I mean, but you said it's inaccurate, so how do you?
Well,
where do
we've
you-
shown
maybe
the
you're right.
data in presentations. We've shown where they're paid. I don't have those exact numbers with me. I didn't know I would need them. But we have done presentations that have shown what the paramedics are making and what the EMTs. And I think everybody at the table, when they saw that, agreed that the numbers need to be increased. Now we're saying the numbers need to be
No,
decreased.
nobody's saying they shouldn't be increased. We're just saying they need to be reasonably increased. And when you increase somebody's salary, you take away his overtime and give him $42,000 to $45,000, and he's making 52. You're doubling his salary and taking away the variable of overtime. That's a pretty strong hit.
What Mr. Poss brought me from, like, it was the advertisement for Davidson.
I believe it was Wilson, and I can't name the exact counties, but there's certain counties we compete with. It's probably included in there, but there's probably others. Based on what he's got in there right now, it looks like he's kind of comparable with our hourly rate, with the increases is what I was looking at. So those numbers are probably including other counties that
Yeah,
are
that's-
not necessarily competing. But I'll say he did show me some numbers, and I don't have them with me. David, to be honest, I wish I brought them with me. I could show you.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to bring up questions that really, hit me in the nose when I was looking through this. I mean, we're seeing paramedics, and I don't want to take anything away from their certifications or their abilities, but they're going to be going from the $40,000 to $50,000 range to 75 to 90,000. That's a lot for the taxpayers of Sumner County to take.
So when you say, I'm looking at paramedic, you're talking about, so here's the
Where are you
budget
looking?
salaries.
There's paramedics.
Hey, Dave.
right?
I know, but I'm looking at the end of
When you
it.
guys asked me to look at it, another thing that's coming into play here is we do different shiftings in some of them. So in other words, they have a lot more required overtime because we have less paramedics. So some of them do 12-hour shifts and we're doing 24. And
Right.
so we actually have a less number of paramedics, but each one would make more because of the overtime.
So
That is skewing that
What do
somewhat.
you suggest here? What do you want to do?
Well,
And I do want to know, if you're going at the paramedics themselves,
no, I'm not.
which line, are you looking at the captain of ALS?
No, he's not looking at
I'm looking at all the paramedics.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at paramedics here, I mean, with the increase, we're at 53, and paramedics are at 63 median annual.
There you go.
So like, we're still below, if I'm looking, and this is what we've been using.
Right.
I'm not discarding what you did for your work externally, I'm just saying that like, if this was the standard we're using, we can't go and use a different one. And according to this standard, they're within market or still maybe arguably.
And I think it's the overtime that's skewing a lot, because I'm looking at his hourly rate, like right here, and can you pop that screen? Is it bad? This screen here, can you show that screen?
It's also $63,000.
This may help David right here if we switch screens. Hey, David, right here may help a little bit, side. Because there's a lot of overtime and stuff. This is their actual hourly rate. It may be better to compare that to other entities' hourly rates right there.
Mm-hmm.
That may be more useful, because there is a lot of overtime involved, so that's the proposed hourly rates next year.
Yeah, no, I realize they're paid a lot of overtime, and that is cost effective to the county rather than hiring more people.
So
if we
it'll
could even
bring
get
up those grosses, because those
Right.
numbers you're looking for, we take their base salary plus their required overtime, and those are added together.
Right, well, one of the arguments is that the chiefs were upset because the paramedics were making more money than them, but they're working a lot more hours than them.
And I'm not involved, I'm just talking about the paramedic, and that's the only part I looked at, David, I can't speak on that part. But I did look at this part with Mr. Poss, and I forget, but we found an average salary for the ones he was showing me, and this is pretty, the paramedics, if anything, are about right on it or slightly on the bottom edge. The EMTs, which he says he's having a hard time, maybe right in the middle or slightly better. It's not. It wasn't a big sway either direction when we looked at it. On the hourly rate, I can't speak about the gross.
Mr. Foss, did you want to make a comment?
I can, Mr. John, I can go first.
Well, I'm looking at their hourly rate, and when you look at ZipRecruiter for paramedic for Nashville, the average hourly rate is $27.35. Now, I've been around paramedics for a long time, and that is about ballpark for them. I mean, because their level of training is a higher level than an EMT, because they do a lot more schooling and things like that. But according to ZipRecruiter, that's their average hourly rate in Nashville is $27.35. Now, there's other things, but that's the average, and that was as of June 13th, 2024. So I don't know if that'll help you. I don't know.
I think it does, because if you look.
Well, that justifies the increase.
But the thing is skewing you a lot. Remember, we've got less paramedics because they have required overtime, so you've gotta find.
But
you've got
this is,
two-
but this is a better way to normalize.
But you've got two things in play, you think, overtime's at time and a half, but you got health insurance, so there's a fine amount where the health insurance costs more than the halftime rate, and then the number two issue we've got,
Right.
are they actually available? Because I don't think we're full right now, I'd have to go check. I don't think we're still staffed up completely.
I don't wanna, I don't wanna move these. Particularly looking at this, I just don't wanna move these. Any others? I mean, I don't wanna cut you off, David, because I do like the work you did on this, particularly with the fully loaded. We've been kind of wanting this, get that look for a while. Any others that you wanna pull out?
And what me and Mr. Potts looked at was the start rate, so that'll be above what we're looking to do, this is close on the start.
Anything else? Mr. Boss, did you wanna say something?
I just would remind the committee that, like I said in the budget presentation, we know we didn't want to pay the metro prices, national prices. So every one of the salaries that I presented is below what Metro is making. It's above some of the smaller counties around here, and it's comparable to like counties that we compete with.
I have to agree with Mr. Frost on this. I mean, looking at it both at the hourly and then looking at the yearly versus the salary, multi-county salary study, they all look to be within range to me. Now, it's, the ones that Mr. Klein, yours, I realized that you had I see why these, with the captains jumped out that way, but given that a lot of that is folded back in with overtime, like it, and you could argue, should it be a 10, you could argue maybe should that be 37 instead of 42 extra, but we're not talking about huge numbers here.
No, we're
Let me
talking
know.
about 3 people.
And I don't want to mislead the committee, because I looked at just a few things, as Mr. Potts, what we were asked to look at. We looked at the start rate for paramedics and EMTs, and based on that, when we looked at those, they looked pretty reasonable. I did not look at his, administrative staff or his clerical staff. So I want to be very clear, did not look at that in any form or fashion, just like me and Ms. Boyd looked at the sheriff's department's deputies, but we did not look at their clerical staff. So there's certain things that have and haven't been looked at, so I don't want to mislead you to think we've looked at a whole lot of stuff.
Okay.
Ms. Boyd was involved in that, we didn't look at everybody.
Mr. Claus, you've obviously done salary analyses. Have you also done for benefits?
Absolutely, we discussed that a little bit, and I think Mr. Long spoke at a previous budget meeting that there's some variances among the counties, but all in all, they're very small. All counties around here have very similar benefits to Sumner County. The private sector, who we compete with as well, they pay a much higher salary, but their benefits aren't as well. So I didn't take into account in doing my salary study the private sector ambulance services that are out there. I just use the county services.
Any others that we want to comment, Ms. Boyd? Any others you want to pull up?
I'm perfectly happy
So-
with everything.
So if we want, then I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion. One, I'm gonna pull us back into our rules, and I'm gonna make a motion to accept, and to put forward the county budget, draft 5 as is, to submit, forward and.
There are a few other items, I thought we were talking about salaries.
Oh, well,
I'm sorry,
then
I didn't
then I
understand your
won't,
question.
yeah, that's why I was asking.
I mean, I think it's a lot of money, and I know what I'm gonna vote, but I'm good to move on.
Go ahead, if there were other things you wanted to put forward, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to talk about capital, for sure. I
Okay.
hear that we need bleacher money, and so I'd like to talk about the 20 million that we're gonna put in highway, because I think now we need to back off. We're gonna have to have bleacher money, so we need to revisit that.
What do you want to do?
I don't know, I'm bringing it to this table, everybody's part of this, we all know what's sitting there, and I'm just saying that this needs to be addressed.
If you uncommit it, there'll be 20 million in the capital fund, and at that point, you can decide next budget year to use it for roads, or we need 2 bleachers, or whatever, if that's what your
That's what I'm
desire
saying.
is, you just need to take the commitment out
Before we
and let
just
it
move
drop in
forward,
the
we got a
capital.
lot more things that we really should.
If that's your
discuss.
will.
I'm saying that we should unappropriate or uncommit that 20 million that we're going to just, out of the way, just go and improve roads, which there was some conditions on that were not gonna be met anyways. And we know that we have this other item that needs to be addressed.
Well, I don't know that there weren't gonna be. I mean, I think we had the conversation with Mr. Ellis, and I mean, at the end of the day, the conditions on it are what the conditions are. So,
Okay,
Well,
so do you want?
if you
The
wanna-
thing, the thing is, only acceptable progress was made. That's not really getting us to where we need to be as far as following the law.
do y'all have a motion? What do you, go ahead, Mr. Mansfield.
I'm just, we made a motion, I made a motion that was contingent upon September, we're not there yet. So
Right.
it's like, I'm not gonna be in favor of pulling that money back to highway at this point. Only because of what we committed to, I made that motion, 2 different meetings actually.
Yeah.
But as far as the schools, the money, they have the money for their own stuff. I mean, they've got their own money
Okay.
for that. I mean, they don't need additional money from the county for that
Right.
issue, so I'm not
I was
gonna
just wanting to see
support
if we're
that
good.
idea either.
I mean, if you wanna make a motion for it, I mean, happy, or make an argument for it, I actually.
No, I understand what you're saying. There's money over there.
So there, I think what I'm hearing is that schools have, if I'm understanding Commissioner Mansfield right, and tell me if I'm wrong, please, but schools have enough money to do these bleacher repairs. Am I understanding that correct, or misreading that?
That's what my school board member told me, so.
I mean, I just,
But I'm not
you know,
gonna pull back and take from the highway.
I mean, from my understanding, again, I'm just putting it out there, I heard that they were seeking, I think, 5 million more, I think they're short, if I'm understanding correctly.
5 million in capital and 5 million in recurring.
I'm just hearing this number, out there that it's, the bids, I think.
Well,
came
let's
in at
do
You
20.
have
this.
to.
We have the director of schools here, let's do this. Before we open up that can of worms, and I'm not saying we can't, but let's do, anything more, let's focus on the county side. Is there anything more you wanna kinda go there?
Can I mention something that may be pertinent to you? And I know you pulled out several capital projects that may come back. There's a $3.8 million roof and a couple of other ones, but right now you're showing 20 million for the highway commitment and another 13 million up there, so it would eat all your capital, but you may be able to handle both, but at the same time, you may want to, the 5 million, I don't know anything about, so it may be a question for the director of schools.
So,
It's easier.
yeah, I mean, this was,
And I know there's some stuff that's probably gonna need to come back in. There were several items pulled out to GNR.
I mean, I've gotta say, unless there's a substantial, I'm just gonna reiterate, I agree with Mr. Mansfield on this one. That's
20
20 million. A lot of numbers. We voted on it twice, and the conditions on it we haven't hit the deadlines yet. It's sitting in capital, we have control over it as we need control over it. Unless there's a substantial reason to change that, I don't wanna, you know, that's the deal we've got with Mr. Ellis at this point. I don't wanna mess with it.
It's not appropriated, it's only committed, so you still have to appropriate and you can uncommit it.
That's right.
It's by vote.
That's right. And
Correct.
So
So you could move it back to something
That's
else
right.
if you need to.
Correct.
So,
if necessary.
Okay.
that's right, and we can discuss that at length. Mr. Mansfield, go ahead.
We talked about what the basic county functions are here. I mean, obviously, it's roads, it's public safety, and it's employee retention, and we've been talking about this for 2 years. This year was the goal after last year, we burned stuff off. We did do 2%, 3% last year, and you got cities like, I think Gallatin doing 1.2%, or Metro's doing 4%. Like, even last year, we were still at 3% for our emergency services, I believe.
We were 3% across the board.
3% across the board.
Okay, two-
And this year, we're going way higher, so it's like, you know, what we're trying to do is bring our employees up to parity to the basic market. That hasn't happened for a long time, and that's how we, you know, that's the way I'm looking at it. And so, when I'm looking at the transportation, I'm looking at public safety, and I'm looking at employee retention. I think that's what we're doing here, and personally, so I mean, that's my focus, my priority, and what I've told my constituents that they've asked of me, and I've stated that publicly. So, I am confused, I guess. I would like to know a little bit more about what the goal was here on bringing parity, because if there's truly not parity, and that we need to reduce percentages to increase percentage in other places, or if we're just not able to do that unless I know you talked about doing a salary survey in that part of the budget, and I believe I was in favor of that. I don't know if that passed or not. I can't remember. There was opposition, but I don't remember where
It's in there.
We talked about. It's not appropriated in the budget. You want to put it in under county commission?
Did we
Maybe
do
my
that?
version's-
I don't remember.
You guys never said to put it into the
I don't think we did.
county commission. You discussed possibly putting into a county commission budget, so if you want to do it, that would be something to do now. And I think I got a quote for it, and I can't recall the amount.
Do you remember if that passed or not? I remember I voted against it. I think maybe Ms. Miller voted against it, but I actually think it passed.
I don't remember it.
I don't remember
doing
that.
it, so I don't remember.
But if it failed, then I don't think we put it in there. If it passed,
I
then
could
we
have
should
that
put it
in
in
there
there.
for the other.
I just don't remember if it passed or not.
You said it was gonna come back to be discussed later and it never, do you wanna put it in?
Well, I'm only asking because.
Not
and
obtaining the quote, it wasn't.
I think.
Dave, do you remember, sorry, did you remember if it passed or not?
What you guys discussed was to bring it back possibly later next year.
I think I remember that.
Right, and then we
Like
decided,
December,
you decided
yeah.
to bring it back later, but if you want to
Well, here's.
do it, you can go ahead and put it in the budget.
Here's why
now.
I'm asking this question, only because, I mean, I was prepared to talk about this, but if you're looking at things that are misclassified, or if it's not classified properly, and
Can you see
if
if we found
we're
that?
needed to, are we able to do a fair comparison here, Commissioner Boyd, versus do we need to do a salary survey to reclassify? It's like, because I'm willing to do the work, so I feel like we're just kind of rushing and just saying, throwing it on the table and
That's
just.
what I thought we were just doing.
I'm not prepared to do that, but.
And I've told other people, we're not salary survey experts. I think that in some cases, the percentages suggest, you know, when I see percentages, or we now have been told that the one was moving the overtime that gave the $42,000 raise. But some of the percentages, 31% raise, I mean, some of the percentages are high, so I don't know, I don't feel comfortable. I mean, I'm prepared to vote no. If that's fine, y'all can pass it on. Because I think that some of the percentages, and not looking at any one department or any one person, we have people that are getting 38%
I get
raises.
it. I guess what I'm asking
So
is,
I'm
what
just saying-
do you want to do?
Well, I wish, I mean, in hindsight, if we could go back and have that salary
We can't
survey.
go back in time.
I know. So,
That's not physically possible.
so
Got the cost if you want to know.
do we go ahead with 31% increases?
Well,
Or do we cut, you know, do we say, let's hold
I-
these
well,
at this
I'm
and then
gonna
people
tell
go
you, like,
later?
I'm gonna give you
I don't
right
have an
now.
answer.
I have an answer.
I've never
right now.
had a 31% increase.
I am willing to pass this forward as it is, but I'm also happy to entertain any changes. That's the purpose of this, but I'm good. I don't want to make any changes. If you have those changes, what I want to know is what specific changes do you want to reduce somebody by 5%? Do you want to add somebody by 10? Just tell us what that is and let's vote on
Do you want the survey amount, how much it would actually cost to do it?
it. Yeah, let's do that.
If you do the survey updating it, she's gave me a quote of $12,000 for the survey, an additional $1,000 optional for them to come in and recommend salaries for EMS and sheriff, because they're your biggest departments and the most fluctuating. So you're talking $13,000. So if you put in the budget now, we can get her started July 1. If you do the budget as is and you do overshoot them, as Mr. Mansfield pointed out one other time, what you can do in the future is you can significantly or zero out cost of living.
Correct.
So if you come in and some employees way off the scale, then you cut their cost of
Zero.
living in half. Or adjust it today. I
So do we
mean,
want to add that, or do we want to take a vote on adding it?
put it under county
the salary
commission.
survey?
Add the salary survey? Do we want to take a vote on it? All right, well, I'll take a vote, I'll bring some of the rules so we can take a vote, and I'll bring it right back.
What would this survey take place?
Sit next, it's just to have it, we're
Next
having
time.
money allocated so that we can.
The next budget.
The next budget.
That's what, okay,
All right.
that's what I want to make sure.
All
I have
in
a
favor-
question
oh, go ahead.
first.
Go ahead, Ms. Miller.
So we paid $13,000 for a salary survey, and we bumped some people up 38%, some people up 10%, whatever the percentages are. So next year, whoever's on the budget committee, you think they're gonna decrease everybody's salary if the salary survey comes back and says, oh, these people are making too much?
I would say that would be a nightmare for your employee morale. I would say your
That's what I'm saying.
best at that point would be if they're way above market, that you give them half cost of living or none, or whatever you decide is appropriate versus an
You wouldn't
increase.
cut.
Just burn them slow.
That's
So
the risk
cost
we
of
take.
living, I mean, COLA this year, we're giving what, 6%? 5%?
So say you do 3 next year, and they're above market, you may want to say theirs is only 1.5.
So what if they're
One.
18% above market and the least you can do them down is 3%? That's my point. Like, you're gonna give all these increases, and is it sustainable without a tax? Matt, are you listening?
Oh, I'm listening. I mean, I think
Click
I'm
on the
with
county
you where
journal and see
you're,
what our disparity
I'm gonna be
is.
against it.
I mean, we're in order, right? We're not out of session, right?
Go
So,
ahead.
Okay, I have the floor.
307.
So, I mean, I don't see spending $13,000 when there's really nothing you can do about it anyways, like,
So is there-
Because you can't go back and decrease, and I mean, I'm sorry, but I think this sets us up for a tax increase, maybe not this year, but real soon. It's a lot of money.
Mr. Mansfield?
Well, that was gonna be one of my questions for the law director, finance director, is, like, as far as increasing this year, which my understanding was we were, pulling out of debt service for these increases.
Recurring, yeah.
Recurring, and, to do this year, so in that instance, it does not set us up for a tax increase, to my knowledge. I mean, but I am asking the question, and I'm nervous, anything we would do on a recurring basis that would, 2 years from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now.
Here's to give you a short answer. We budget conservatively because of the concern of a recession. We've had a good economy several years. Last year, the difference between unassigned budgeted revenue expenditures was $4,042,000 some odd dollars. This year's $307,000 more. In the last couple of years, if you look at our reserves, we've been picking up significant reserves because we have been pretty conservative on those. So all else been held equal, because you moved enough money from debt service to cover on the raises, would not be the effect. Now, long term, if inflation continues at this rate, you'd really have two choices, that, not to give raises and decrease services, or raise taxes, but right now you're still stable.
So what we're specifically talking about is the survey itself, and here's my take on it. There's no such thing as a perfect survey. We used this survey this year. It was imperfect, but it got us, I mean, looking at all these, we brought people up to what I think is arguably a fair market rate, largely across the board. If we do another salary survey, it's gonna be out of date 2 years later. You're just gonna be continuously doing this.
You have to keep
So
updating it.
that is why I'm gonna be against it, but people can vote however they want, and if the vote goes, I'm against doing another salary survey and putting money forward. So the motion on the table is there a motion on the table?
Well, no, we're still discussing.
So we're still discussing it. Is there a motion on the table to add, what was the amount?
Is $13,000.
So I'll make a motion to,
Hold on, I'm not done discussing,
well, I can still make a motion. But my motion is to deny the $13,500, and not do this. That's my motion.
There's no motion to approve this.
Well, I know, I want this to go away because we got stuff to do today.
So if we could have done it in the past, we would have, but it's a bad idea to do it for the
We did
future.
this.
That makes no sense, but
We did that.
if you're in a hurry, I'm good to go.
Go ahead, Ms. Mansfield.
Okay. Shall just slow down a little bit. So, I'm still looking at and trying to process the disparity in percentages and the concerns there. Concerns of making sure that with what we're budgeting permanently and increasing, because we're pulling out of debt service for employee raises, which we talked about for employee retention, and bringing people to market where they haven't been to market for years is kind of like what this is process about. So to recap that a little bit, obviously my concern is not doing anything that will jeopardize or push us towards any type of property tax increase, or making any miscalculations or not taking the time to make calculations. Now, obviously doing a salary increase, a salary survey is a double-edged sword. If you come back like, yeah, all these people are way over, and then you're stuck not doing COLA or any raises, because if I'm not mistaken, I think last year, I don't know if there was an ask for 6% COLA, whatever the COLA was plus 6% raise, it's almost the same as this year. Is that, I can't remember. Last year, I don't know if they came back and just asked for 6% COLA, or they just came back and asked for.
Everybody came back, and I think that we ended up getting between 2 and 3.
But we had to ask last year of asking for COLA plus additional budget request last year.
We did not do the market stuff last year, no.
But last year, I'm just trying to clarify for everybody else. This year, people are asking for requested additional budgeted above COLA.
Correct.
All departments have asked that. Last year, we didn't have that.
Correct. Last year, we didn't have that. I think a couple of them did not ask for it. But nevertheless, when we were going.
But last year, we only just did COLA.
We only did COLA.
We didn't do anything else.
And most years, the idea of doing this year you're not gonna do, you don't wanna do a market adjustment like this every year.
No.
You do a market adjustment, that's doing, this is why I'm generally against this thing. You do a market adjustment and then you do COLA, and at some point down the pipe, 6 years, however, yeah, it'll be out of whack again. And then you do another salary survey.
If we've done this loose market adjustment, and I mean, I've been very vocal about, I don't know what market is. I've been very vocal about that. The idea to not come back in with doing the salary survey and finding that some of our people are under market. I mean, sure, some people might be over, but it's the ones, I'm looking down at the ones that are under market. I've had some departments speak to me, they were all okay until they saw the similar positions in other departments that are much higher than them. I'm looking at, like, we have some that have not gotten a lift.
I get the argument.
So that's why I wanna see the salary
So what are the
survey.
departments, and let's correct it,
Yeah,
let's lower
that's-
from some and
yeah.
boost others, but you
So-
gotta lower to upper.
What do you,
Well,
in
what
my
do you
opinion.
wanna, like, that's, I guess.
I'm just bringing you the problem. I thought we
But
would
I-
discuss it. I didn't know I had to bring a solution.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm
well,
saying
I'm
a
just saying
salary
propose a
survey,
solution.
I'm saying a salary survey might get us closer to a solution than,
Well, so then we wouldn't correct it this year.
we can bring up the bottom.
Well, then, so these are separate things. And I want to address them separately. So right now, let's clear out this idea of the salary survey and set that aside. And then we'll make the changes if there are any
Okay.
changes we want to make now.
I'll make
So-
a motion for a salary survey up to $15,000.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second to that?
It was 13 here.
Well, up to.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we have a motion to appropriate up to $15,000 for a salary survey. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay. Were you
I'm a
no,
no.
Ms. Miller? All right. So motion carries. So we'll add up to $15,000.
County Commission.
Is that, where do you want to put it, Ms. Gordon?
It's
I think
best
county
wherever-
commission, and
yeah.
then the best thing to do on this, because it's such a big thing, is to have a committee to do it. Put it in county commission, then we'll organize it, but then have the committee work with the consultants, like a county commission and open committee.
Can we have, committee on committees figure that out?
Yeah, or one of the committees operational.
Who would you like to figure that out? I'm suggesting committee on committees.
I nominate Terry Boyd.
Now I'm busy. I learned that from
Let
him
the
last
budget
time. I
committee
did-
do a
Yeah,
subcommittee.
that needs to stay in the budget. committee.
Budget committee do a subcommittee for it.
Yeah,
Let them deal with
I'll
it.
appoint a subcommittee. Okay? Are you good with that? We just appoint a subcommittee, and it'll stay on.
I didn't know
the
we
budget.
needed one. He's one.
I think it's a good idea.
Do a
We'll do a
subcommittee.
subcommittee.
That way it'll be transparent into the meetings and
I'll just appoint
everything.
it through email, and then it'll be noticed, all the same stuff as usual. Okay, now, let's move on to Mr. Mansfield's point, I think is valid here. If there are, and you pointed out one earlier that I think was decent discussion, right? And we got some questions answered, and we didn't make any changes. Are there others that you want to highlight and look at, and we can determine if, like Mr. Klein's, that, these numbers appear to be kind of out of whack, and then when you dig into them, they're fine. Or, maybe there's something that there is that we want to adjust. I'm just asking how you want to handle this. Do you want to continue to go down the pipe? Do you want to bring up any others specifically and address them, little by little?
Nobody's explained these, can we
Yeah,
actually
let's pull this out.
explain
Let's
this?
actually pull it.
Explain this?
Which one do you want me to go through the
Before we
tables?
do this, make a motion to pull us back out of rules.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Lyon.
Let's just go to the first one, the source table. We can click on it there. This is a listing, and it has your department, your employee title, your job class, years of service, the ending salary, what employees make as of today, 2025, the difference in the dollars in these two, and the percentage. This is if they got any earlier raises, such as the sheriff's department and various other ones. This is the percentage since the beginning of the year, and some of them may be negative or odd amounts because they're new employees or vice versa. They're ordered by the lowest on this one, if you look, job class, based on the high salary. Over here, for the current, your high salary for the lowest job class. That's one way to look at this stuff. The next one, we came in and we filtered them because we thought it may be useful. We're trying to figure out the most useful way to do it. So if you click on the next, I think you did. This just has your classes, you know. When they did the salary survey about 3 years ago, they did job classes based on responsibilities, training, other various factors, and they had skill levels between a 3, which would be on the lower end, to a 15 that would be the highest end. So these are, for instance, all your skill level 3s. This is their employee numbers, and then this is the dollars they're making from highest to lowest for that particular skill level. This is the percentage change since what they're currently making, and this is the percentage change from the beginning of the year. And we can drill back to them if you want to see details of departments and other things. But we try to keep it simple the way it's be something if you want to look at it in large scale. The other one here, because if you go to this one, it's basically, click on that one, it's basically the source table again, and I was asked for a couple of things. Number one, because there's a lot of EMTs, paramedics, correction officers, and just deputies. So we removed those classes because they're similar in pay and they really skew it. So I was asked a couple other things. One, to show who the highest one in the skill level and the next highest and the next highest, but also there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting. People wanted to see how they averaged out. Well, the most meaningful average we could find, if you go back up, Beth, is if you look, this is the average for every skill level 3 that is 0. And then this is the difference between what the person currently makes to that average number for 0. Then this is the average for skill level 3 for everybody with 1 year of service. This one is for 2 years of service. Well, there's only one skill level 3 at 2 years of service, so they would meet the average. So this is just to show you how much the people average from everybody else in the same skill level to the same years of service. But as Commissioner Shoves pointed out, one thing, these things aren't perfect from the start. They're also 3 years old. So some of these things may have changed, so you may want to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because it hadn't been updated for 3 years. The third one, we just came back and did the same thing. If you click on that one, right, there you go. Basically the same thing again, except for it's just got.
Dave, I'm sorry, like this.
It's killing us over here.
Yeah,
That green.
killing us with that green light, and it's getting.
Oh, is it reflecting back?
Yes.
Right now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I can't see anything.
Let's just count columns, maybe the easiest way to do it. You can point to the columns. If you look, this is basically the same thing for EMS over here and Sheriff's Department because of your 2 largest departments. The first one comes in and it says EMS at your department. This tells their position. This tells their currently salary. That tells their budgeted salary. That shows the percentage change from that. And that's the percentage change from the beginning of the year. And those, this is their class. This is their years of service. And then this is the averages again. That's an average for a class 4 for 0 years. And then the far right's how much that employee's 2005 proposed budget will vary from the proposed average.
So
I think you've got a lot of.
You're giving us a variance.
Variances in multiple ways to look at them because you have a whole lot of data to dissect, and there's a lot of ways to look at it because you've got to remember certain things.
So
These salary scales haven't been used, so
You're
some
talking
people
about a
have been
7%, 8% variance at the.
So that's why I'm saying your paramedics and your teacher, pretty much the EMS keeps those
Pretty close.
the same based on years of service. Sheriff's the same thing, and that's why we segregated these people out because they already have kind of a really large pattern. So when you go back to the first one, these are the ones without, or the one right before EMS Sheriff's Department, has those two, a lot of those groups excluded because they really skewed the averages, so they're excluded out of that group. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But the thing you've got to remember is these salary scales weren't used, so some people may be on the very bottom of market, some people may be on the very top of market, so there still will be a variance because, and I would have to go look, but I think each one of those scales had a variance of about 10% or faster. So if you're not varying by more than 10%, you can still be in market.
Yeah, that was been my, yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good way to illustrate that. But like, were there any that were varying outside of that 10%? I mean.
Well, as I'm saying, the one that I was mentioned here, but that's because, as Mr. Rogers says, he thinks it's been misclassified. He hadn't had a chance to go back and talk to the consultants because they haven't been here 3 years. That one's classified as a 3. He says it should be larger. It's way past market, but do we know for sure the classification's correct and we don't have the salary survey people here to justify it?
I mean, the court security is like, I mean, that looks like the highest one, and that's right at 10%. I mean.
And then go and start sliding down. If you start sliding down, we did the color coding, but you had certain departments stand out, but not to say they're over market, they just maybe got closer to the higher end of market. And some of them are closer to the lower end of market. So there'd be quite a bit of variance. And then there could be, like, you've only got 15 levels too, so there could be some variances within those levels.
There's a couple of the court security ones are on the higher end, but I mean, they're not crazy.
But the same thing that do kind of, I don't think it's.
I don't know, the more I look at this, the more I think it's evidence that we're like pretty.
We didn't pull courthouse security out because we didn't call them deputies, but when the chief deputy mentioned last year and the year before, they're trying to make those all certified officers, so
Right.
in some intents and purposes, they should have been pulled off of
But
this
even
and moved
then,
over
they're
here
at
anyway.
most like, I mean, there's a couple of them that look like they're like 12%. I mean, even then, they're not, wow. Go ahead.
We're talking, like I say, we got 3-year-old information. I'd like to do a motion to reconsider what we did as far as the salary survey, just add an amendment to it to say that, let's make this information relevant as of January 2025, so that we're not talking with 3-year-old information, 1-year-old information, what are 6 months. Try and make it as close as we can. That we may get it in
That's what you've done.
March.
Well, think about this, if we start pulling data in July, it's gonna take them a while to update it. So you're gonna have a pretty good idea if they get July's data, because the years are close. If we start, because your budget's not gonna be approved to August, so we'll say, hey, pull the trigger in August. You're talking August, September, October, November, December. January, your departments will start working on their budget, so you really need to start in August.
So, but the information that we have will be relevant as of January 2025.
Well, it'll be the most relevant they have. You can't get it that updated because.
Well, I know, but we won't start this process till April, right?
Well, the thing is, they've got the departments, we send out everything early January or even late December sometimes for them to enter their information. They have to have it back to me by March to get to you guys over here to start looking at April, May, because we gotta consolidate all of it and work with them to make sure it's, we don't have errors entering it or.
So do we need to do an amendment, just make that as a qualification of the bid?
I think that's what's gonna happen anyway.
It's gonna happen by
That's
default.
gonna happen by default.
That's fine.
Because of logistics.
I withdraw that.
The logistics itself's gonna push it to the
Go
most
ahead, Mr.
relevant.
Mansfield.
Well, I would just like to, I guess, again, take for example, like, what are some of the concerns? I mean, when you look at, we're talking about percentages on the job classes and years of service, and then like the percentages that jumped out. Like, I'll go ahead and pick on our planning director, maybe not planning, who was I going to pick on?
I mean, you could go to Register of Deeds is one that.
Planning's a fairly good example.
Jumps out.
It's within market, but I mean, but like, we looked at this, we were going by this public sector salary survey, and when you look at planning had a 7 to 10 year average, meaning it was $136,000. You start planning director is at 140. And that was, he was a 133, going to 140, that's with a 5% COLA. So that's within market, I guess. I look at things individually when I'm not looking at, I'm just trying to figure out the total percentages that are egregious or where there's disparity, and just trying to figure out where those are. Because when I do come and look, we've talked about the paramedics, that's within market scale. We've talked about the planning directors within market scale.
Say if he's right up within market, then you only gave him 5%, which was the cost of living, so that one you would have hit what you're aiming to.
Yeah.
So say if Josh, when he come and did his earlier adjustments, hit market, or you're thinking maybe slightly above.
Correct.
And then you're trying to hit him with just the CPI, and you're considering, or your cost of living is 5%, then you actually did hit him there. So, I mean, it would have hit on that one, if we're saying he's correct.
We worked on his line.
Correct. I remember. I'm just trying to see what jumps out the most to you guys.
I mean, the one that I mean, I've gone through here, the sheriff's deputy ones, like, they're on the higher end, but they don't jump out. And given what Mr. Long said, that those might have been, they might be classified as a bit too low, I'm comfortable with those. The only one.
Well, the sheriff's was 5%, it's 2%. That's what they did.
Yeah, but
That's why a lot of them showing at 7%.
I'm going by this too. But the only one that I've seen, I'm still going through it, that really jumps out here is the Register of Deeds. So if you go to Chief Deputy Register of Deeds, it's 3 pages from the back. This person is $20,000 off of the average. It looks like about which the average right around 60,000. Just 3 pages from the back.
We got the sheets, I don't even know.
Can I say one thing though that you may want to think about?
It says, county buildings, this one I'm looking at is county buildings on the top.
Thank you.
But there's one thing you may want to think about in a lot of places that do have full-blown salary scales, okay? Sometimes they allow people to hire to the midpoint based on experience and various other things, so that is going to skew some of these numbers you're
And I'm
looking
not
at.
saying this is wrong necessarily, I'm just saying like so a couple things about this. One, what this shows is that, and I honestly, I feel like I want to give the department heads some props here, because like, these are pretty tight. Like, they're pretty, you don't have these wild variances up and down. And I mean, I'll give this committee some props too. I mean, we've gotten these things pretty tight. The only one that jumps out is the register of deeds. And I'm not saying there's not a reason for it. It's just, if you go to the third from the back page, that there's a chief deputy register of deeds. And so what we have here is the average, a median of 60,000. And this person is gonna be at 20,000 above that, which is about a third, about 33%. But there may be a reason for it.
There's just the department by itself and the variances to all the averages, so it's on all of that way.
So, I want to say that again?
Well, if you look, we just pulled only that department out, so it still compares to all the other data, so it still shows the department, the position, the current, the ending, the raise, the percentage raise from the beginning of the year, classes, years of service, and then it also shows the average for people in the same class, same years, and then the differences. A plus means they make more than average, a minus means they make
Yeah, I mean,
less.
but none of these are like these, that's like 4%,
yeah.
2%,
10%.
10%, 8%, 7.5%. These, these are a little bit bigger. This is like 25%, and that's probably 33%. So, but I mean, register of deeds is here. I mean, we had numbers that jumped out at us from EMS, and turned out to be good rationale for it. So I don't know. We have our rules suspended.
Real quick question.
Go ahead.
Looking at this, David, which is that public sector salary survey, on page 3, whoever got it. Yeah, sure, for deeds, the chief deputy clerk, that median actual base pay rate for the 17-year average was 81,000.
So there you go. I mean, we're not outside of market.
I'm just looking at what we're going by. So I'm trying to compare.
Gotta remember somebody may
What
be
do
on
our
a high
other
one.
deputies make?
For the
Like-
same.
Like, the trustees deputy or.
So you're wanting to look at
clerk's deputy.
other sixes, maybe? Maybe just do trustee also and see how that's. Well, I don't know if she's the same. We'll just hit trustee also, don't hit all of them. Just hit trustee and register and see. Maybe the easiest way to look at it.
You're in there.
Just look at this.
No, put register with her, I'm sorry. That way we put them beside each other, we can kind of compare. There you go, guys.
This is another one of those things where I mean, given what Mr. Mansfield just says, and I'm not going to think that he is.
Where's the chief deputy for the trustees? Right below. But it's a one step higher because it's got more. But it's actually a 10. That one's
Where's the disparity?
That one's a 9 level, so there's a difference, and the years of service is different.
I know it does. Well,
So if you look at the far column, that's what Mr. Long is showing you,
This
is
is
the
the fraction
difference
average.
by
Is that-
average.
that's
Like,
this sheet right here.
the ones with the parentheses around them are under the average, and the ones without the parentheses are over the average. So like, the one that's yellow, they're 15,000 over the average, and then if we look up towards the top line.
Where's that average coming from?
Okay, what you do, say if you got skill level 3, 0 years of service, we took the average of all skill level 3s, 0 years of service, but that average, and then compared the employees to that, and that's that column right here. Then we would do that with all the 3s, skill level 1, 2, 3, all the way through. So you're compared with somebody in the same skill level, that's the same years of service, but you gotta remember a couple things. We only have 15 skill levels. These are 3 years old, and it doesn't account for any pre-existing service that comes about. So
But
there's.
everybody's on the same older scale.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, but that's
that's true.
Jeremy's point, that like, when you update it and look at market, which is what we did, the market shifts differently, and so some of these have jumped up, and in these cases, like where it looks like there's a discrepancy here, when we go back and we compare it to the market study that we were looking at, it's right on point.
This is from fourth quarter 2023.
Yeah.
So this is through December 2023.
For the large areas.
I guess, here's where, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if we're comparing apples to oranges here a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if we've been going by this during our dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of budget hearings. But then we're looking at this, as you're saying, so this is the average in inter-county.
Internally.
It's internal comparisons.
It's internal.
But we've been looking at external
Right.
comparisons
Right.
to base this budget on, so that's where I'm having a.
Well, so it's important.
They're
to do
starting
both.
to, I guess this is where the conflict
If
happens. It's
somebody's-
like, how do you rectify
If
that?
somebody was above market when you guys went through, you really didn't deal with that much, other than maybe you decreased their cost of living. If they were below in some instances, you really didn't. So, and plus with the 10% variance, you're gonna see these differences.
Here's what I'm noticing, and you're right, because we're trying to do both. I mean, and this was what you wanted to do, which was.
Well, we're just-
And it's just hard to see, and it takes a long
But
time.
but my point here is this, there are a couple instances where if you look countywide, across the county, throughout the market study, right? You'll have this discrepancy, but they're very few. There are very few, and when you look at them, like we just did, you pull it up and you're like, well, it's that high because that's what it is onto the market. And so I'm even though, yes, I'm looking at that, I'm like, man, that's a big bump. But when I look at that's what the market tells me to do, I'm still comfortable with it.
There's one factor
Go
that
ahead, Ms.
that you all are missing big time, and that's what I'll make sure we're all looking at here, okay? Just take the Register of Deeds office. The Register of Deeds office here may have one employee that's the chief deputy that has certain duties combined into those. Another county may combine those slightly different. The average across all of them may be this. We're looking at the average across all of them. So we've captured what all of them on average do, and it comes to the average salary. Well, ours may be slightly significant difference in some of these departments, so it'd make this employee make more and this one make less. So the most consistent would be if you did this comparison with the full-blown salary survey, but since you don't have that, you're probably getting as good as you can get right now. But there's gonna be those differences because of that too. Combinations of duties within the departments. Who they're
Well,
given
that's,
to.
it's like.
The departments are the same, but they give duties to different people, combine them differently.
Holly, I'll get you, go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt anybody, but I just want you to see something that I did. After the last meeting I listened to, I knew there was some questions about the chief deputy. So I contacted my fellow registers, and I've got a list here that I'm gonna pass out to y'all. If you'll just take that, pass that down for me. Wilson County, this is basically ranked in population, so we're number 8 in population. So I've got numbers 9, 7, 6, and 5 listed on there. I contacted them and asked them about their chief deputies and how much they pay their chief deputies. Wilson County, who is under population under us with 163,000, they have 3 chief employees that do what my one chief deputy does. Her 3 total together make $215,000. She has 76,000, a 71,000, and a 68,000. My chief deputy actually has more years of experience than what's listed on there. Back in 1995, she was actually hired by Catherine Brown, our registrar. That was then. 1995 through 1999, she was hired by Catherine Brown. 99 through 2001, she was hired by Pam Whitaker, full-time. She did an independent title searcher job from 2001 to 2022, and currently is now with me full-time. So really, truly, she has 29 years of experience within this sector. So I understand what that's saying as far as like 1 year, and the job classes, again, I'm like with them, I don't agree with the job classes either. I do believe that those job classes were based upon what the job descriptions were given at that time by the old people who were in office then. I feel that, I know I've changed my job descriptions, and so anyways, this is pretty self-explanatory, kind of gives you the job description also of my chief deputy on the back as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think this goes back to say, again, why we need a salary survey. If the register is at where they need to be, but our other clerks are down, the salary survey is gonna show that we need to bring them up. And that's always been my thing, is I think that there's some that are not there.
I mean, it passed, so.
I know, I'm just
Go ahead,
saying
Mr.
that would support that.
I would, I guess, speaking of this, I know, it's kind of like salary survey, and it's the same, it's almost like a staffing survey. Like, it's almost like, well, how many departments are understaffed or how many departments are overstaffed? you know, and that's, you're looking at that as well. I might, you know, it's, you get into that realm, but I'm just curious, I would like to hear, because we can always move to reconsider. I was going to prevent this.
Okay.
When it comes to, like, what was your, I'd like to hear yours and Commissioner Miller's, I guess, objections to the salary survey. I understand, I guess I heard Commissioner
Let me
Miller's.
explain mine.
Yeah, I heard hers, I don't need it again, versus like, you might come back and somebody's $18,000 over, and then what are you gonna do? You're just gonna keep them flat for like 4 years to keep them even. So I understand that.
My take, I mean, mine is pretty simple. It's different from Ms. Miller's, but I mean, I think they're related. We're doing this, I mean, we have cut and sliced these market adjustments this year a lot of different ways, and every way we're looking at it confirms that we're pretty close. I'm more confident now than I was before. A market adjustment is not something we're gonna do at a mass scale like this every single year. We knew that we hope, we don't anticipate to have these wild adjustments in the market and this wild kind of inflation that we've had over the last couple of years forever, right? I mean, these are things that have been a combination of maybe some underinvestment in particular places like the highway department. I do think there's been underinvestment there, and stuff that's been outside of the county's control, which is inflation and just changes in market dynamics. So we make this one, we knew this was coming, we made this one big adjustment this year. Moving forward, we really ought to be able to just do COLA for a while, pretty flat COLA with maybe some targeted, like if we see, you know, somebody like really out of whack, you look at that specifically. What I don't want to see, and this is my opinion, I don't think we need to do this every single time.
I'll make a motion to reconsider the salary survey.
Okay, motion to reconsider the salary survey. I wasn't on the prevailing side.
I wasn't either.
I know.
All right, well, we're stuck with it. It's okay.
Can I say something in favor of the salary survey?
Go ahead.
I think it'll be a good after effect check. I mean, you're comfortable, I'm getting more comfortable with the thought that we're close. I think the salary survey, if it comes around December or whatever, we'll be able to verify that we were close. And it'll help us for the following year. I think for the little money it costs.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, y'all won, so it is what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's in there. All right, anything else that we want to look at here?
Are we good with the 30 new employees?
I mean, I'm good with them. I'm good with them because we've, once again, per Mr. Long's comment and what I said earlier, we're doing this in such a way that we're not on a trajectory for a tax increase in the next 36 months. You know, it's hard to look out further than 36, 48 months. Things can change, but like for our long-term projections, this keeps us there. And if we can give the departments what they want and need, you know, minus those things which we've cut down and negotiated with a bit, let's do it. That's my take on it.
You probably need to look at your long-term projections tonight or at the meeting on the 15th, whichever you prefer.
We
Quickly.
can look at it now, might as well. But go ahead. Let's go ahead.
I'm gonna change my vote to that a no vote, so I can do that before we adjourn, according to Robert's rules. So I'm gonna mark me as a no on the salary survey. It still passes, but just mark it.
Okay.
I'm here changing my vote.
All right.
Sorry.
So let's do this. Let's do Ms. Boyd, is there anything more, Mr. Klein, like this work with the fully wrapped rate was good. Is there anything more we want to consider before we move on to long-term projections? And I think, you know, we probably do want to discuss school stuff.
Since they're not part of your legal budget, you do need to be sure if you're fine with the regular budget, we'll go ahead and start sending out the amendments that you guys did to the department heads for hearings on the 15th.
So
Where they can come in to talk
one
about
item-
the changes.
One item, if we can go back and address the compression in EMS then.
Okay.
Because when we were looking at it, we did create that compression at the top. So do you want to go back and add some of those in at the top where we got a compression?
I'm fine with
problem?
doing that. I think, to my opinion, if we're gonna do it for the EMS, we need to look at it for the sheriff too, because
I know it's
we
there,
did-
so
we
that's
did
what
the
I'm
same
saying.
thing.
We never went any further.
We
So
didn't, but
I would like to.
we'll need a motion to
look in-
reconsider on the one. that
Skill for
I
the
made a
sheriff,
vote
we
in.
captured all of them while we.
I made a
You
motion.
fell a lot.
well, not to fail, but.
What?
I made a motion to change the top end increases on, the sheriff's department salaries, because the way they had been cut was that anybody above 10,000, who was above a $10,000 raise got cut by half. But those that had like 9,998, just because the logic of it, they kept 9,998. So the motion I made was to have everybody who was above that 10,000, that had, that had been cut to 5,000, to make it 10,500.
Yeah, but then we decided that the reason you failed is we decided because as a whole, they could spread it any way they wanted.
Yeah, they
That's the
can, but
reason we
then, I
voted
mean,
against it.
I know, but then the question was, between all of us.
Differently, where I'm talking about was specifically at the top of the EMS.
Let me
Go ahead, Mr. Warren.
make sure we're on the same page. Right now, hit this summary, go down, Bethany, I can tell them the amount. Go down to the bottom, like the amount I can tell them. Right now, the difference between revenue and expenditures are 307,200 worse than last year. We still think, all else being held equal, unless some really bad happens, you're still probably gonna be break even on fund balance or slightly better. But if you go much further, you're increasing your probability of using fund balance further and further.
So,
Just make sure you understand that before we
yeah,
go
before
forward.
we make any, like,
Before we make any more large
we're like
changes.
we're very close right here. I mean, if
Make
we're gonna
sure
address
you
the
are.
compression,
You're not suggesting raising stuff, right? You're
Well,
talking
we took out,
reducing,
if-
right?
no.
no, she's talking about.
And everything I've talked about today, if you haven't heard, has been to increase, just about everything I said. I'm talking about like this.
And what we've talked about is not having a tax increase and
I
balancing that
know,
out.
well, but I wanted to like pull the bottom and the top a little bit closer,
So-
like shaving a little bit here and moving there.
So-
Or even taking those 30 new employees and pulling them off the books and giving
What do you want
back
to do with,
here.
what do you want to do with the, I mean, I
Well,
agree
we
that there's
have,
some compression.
okay, so here's the thing, for EMS, we have 6 new employees that we've never talked about at health and emergency. Can we take some of that funds, I don't know where we need 6 new employees, I mean, the mayor said Gallatin needs 6 new employees. But these here in this block, we removed them. And we didn't do that anywhere else.
Can I say one thing
Go
that
ahead.
you may want to think about?
Go ahead.
They get to make, like right now, you've got a proposal for the departments. Versus you guys guessing what you can do when you send back to the departments, they've got a right to make a different proposal back to you again on the 15th.
True.
Yeah,
Okay, let's do
let's-
that.
So it may be an
Let's just do
EMS
that.
proposal of what they think it is, and let
Let's
them
do
show
that.
that
You're
to
gonna-
you.
But I still.
For those
like
top
thinking about
compressions.
getting new employees.
Well, it,
Versus you trying to guess it tonight because you've changed it, moved it, we don't have the data
I'm good either
anymore.
way. I like this to, like, because there is gonna be a chance for them to kind of make their case. Do you want to make a change tonight, or do we want to just pass it on and deal with that when it?
Then they can bring you their data and their reasoning versus you trying to guess it tonight.
I like that.
Would that maybe a better idea? That way all the departments can bring back their reasoning versus guessing.
So what you're suggesting then, David, is we pass this on as is.
To let them have their hearings.
Let them have their hearing, and then, because I do agree with you that there's some compression there, and we can.
And then they can propose what needs to be dealt with on
We can just let
compressions.
them
If you
bring it back.
disagree, agree, take
And
it.
like I said, I could see it in the new employees. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot too,
Yeah.
30 new employees is a lot. I mean,
So-
I'm still having.
You're gonna have hearings from 4 to whenever on the 15th, so they can come back and discuss it just at that night, then
So we
we'll
good
fix it
with,
to publish.
I would like to take a vote. Well, before we do that, let's look at long-term. Let's look at long-term before we pass this forward.
Because long-term's not part of your official budget. It's
Yeah, but I still want to look at it before we do this.
Because right now they do need some thought processes because they're long-term.
Because I think what everybody here wants to be very comfortable with is that we're on a good trajectory.
You gotta remember, these are based solely on your budget, so we show disparities between revenue and expenditures, but then we actually pick up money because we usually do better on revenues and all of your budget's not spent. So go down, Beth, and show them 24's projections. Keep going down, Beth. 24, we're showing this year, you're probably gonna pick up, we think, quite a bit of money. Next year, if we continue budgetary, it was gonna show quite a bit of decreases, but we don't think those are necessarily realistic. You can go in and adjust
Wait, say it
percentages.
again, point.
Okay, point is right here, okay?
Okay.
This is actual numbers, okay?
Yep.
This is our estimated this year based on,
Yep.
we don't think everybody's gonna spend all their budget and what we
Yep,
think's gonna spend
yep,
as
yep.
of. This is based on current year budgetary changes, what's in there, so this number's gonna necessarily skew bad. If you notice it's
Yep,
4 million
yep.
down. realistically, you could come in and adjust these more toward actual, and it will show a better pattern.
That's okay, this is, I don't know that we need to do that.
Well, down here you're showing a potential negative.
2028.
So for a better thing, you can come in and say you want me to adjust a certain way, and we'll bring it back next time with those adjustments versus.
Well, I don't understand what happened here.
Because the difference this year, we're showing the difference between revenue and expenditures of $4.some million.
Yep.
If you take that compound year over year, the disparity percentage, they just get larger. You might as well 4 plus the percentage, so they compound. Right.
Yeah, but, so we shouldn't be in a deficit this year or next year.
No, you're definitely not showing a deficit anywhere. We do over here in 28.
Yeah, but that's what I don't understand, because you're,
Why are we showing a
why is it
deficit?
showing a deficit that just pops up all that
Go
quickly?
up, show the percentages, Beth, you'll have to see them. This is going up, I'll show you some of the numbers, that's kind
You're
of wild.
blind and Jeremy.
Sorry. A couple of things is one. Sorry, I didn't mean to blind. We need to go back and look at these for one, because right now I can tell you that, remember you adjusted that for 5.2, this is the old patterns, we need to do an adjustment, that's what I'm saying, you need to go back and tell us to adjust them for the next meeting.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense.
The tax levies are not adjusted.
Yeah, that doesn't, yeah, we need to adjust the tax.
You made adjustments in the last meeting we haven't picked up yet.
Yeah, that's.
It's number one, and once you guys vote on those, if that's the way you wanna go forward tonight, we'll adjust all of
Because
this.
they should reflect how we're doing it this year going forward.
You just gotta vote it, you gotta vote that tonight.
That's fine.
Then number two, go on down, Bethany, if you look, these expenditures are more based on budgetary than actual. If you tell me to go back and try to base them more to our actual, we'll bring those down and show you a better, a different pattern.
Well, no, but I wanna look at them toward budgetary. Because that's, why would we change that?
Well, because your budget, your average budgets, we only spend 92% of it.
Yeah, but that's fine.
It's gonna skew up your expenditures, and if you do an 8% extra and take that out of your budget.
Yeah, I see,
it makes
you're
it-
saying it's compounding.
You'll still compound and still have that deficit. Part it's gonna get by moving that $5.2 million.
But the problem is if you start not doing that, then you run the risk of,
If you have a really bad year.
you run the risk of running closer. That's a double-edged sword. So, because I really thought the way we worked this out, we're on a three-year.
Well, that's your third year right there, go down, Beth. We've moved forward a year.
Well, I guess that's true. We should have been on a three-year run with no deficit.
Right, but we will be once we add the 5.2.
Okay.
Because it's 5.2 a year, it's still gonna show no deficit, but I think you're still gonna show this really huge decrease, but I don't think that's realistic.
That looks weird to me.
Well, go, if we put 5.2 million more this year, it's reoccurring 5.2 there, plus the compounding 5.2, that's 15
So
million.
15 million.
So go down.
There you go, so 19 minus 15.
Once you vote that tonight, that's gonna fix a bunch of that, so that
Yeah.
puts you forward, then what I need to do is go up here in the
Yeah,
expenditures
then that gets us.
and adjust those to about
That gets us
90% if
almost
you
2
agree.
extra years.
That'll get you.
That'll get us.
And then
2
112, let's see how it looks, I think it's
All right,
fine.
that makes sense, now I understand.
Hit 112,
David, you're about to kill Jeremy.
Sorry.
with that thing.
hit 112, go down.
Sorry,
You go over, Beth, before we can see what's
We're
going on.
picking up that 5 million a year
What are we picking up $5 million?
from
go down.
From like debt service?
Yes, from the change.
We only have 10 million in debt service.
Right, but
We're not-
you compound it, because we're not spending all of this year, we're not gonna spend all of next year, so it keeps adding up.
I know, but why are we gonna have any deficit?
We're not gonna have, that's how, he hasn't added that back in there.
Okay, that's
He
why.
didn't adjust it in.
That's why the negative's there.
That's why it didn't make sense to me.
We use that trend right there on that one, Bethany, we probably hit that 1,191,000. She used a trend, see what's on there. That one, we've been using trends, but if you've got to think, this year, we've opened up or 25, we're opening up a brand new courthouse.
Yeah,
which
that's
really
gonna, that's gonna skew us.
So we probably need to take that, what do we have budgeted? So that's what the actual budget is. Instead of using that,
There's one or two. like,
instead of using that trend, you just want to use the 3% going across and see what it looks like in courthouse and jail first.
Like 26 of them this year. So,
Instead of taking the trend, because the trend's really skewed because of 25, you just want to take that plus the 3% increase for each year and remove the trend, because the trend's going to be really skewed unless we remove this last year out of it. We've got this big increase right here, and I'm going to actually turn it on, but we got this big increase right there because of the new courthouse. It's gonna skew your trends. Do you just wanna use a 3% increase versus a trend? What make the most sense?
No, I mean,
Yeah, I think we got a real big, huge bump next year.
if you wanted to do it right, what you would do is you would just go ahead and average it like you would do a smoothie on it, but
We can do that, but
you wanna do that?
I think it'd be probably more realistic to take,
It's probably, cause you wanna account for that, like take some off the variance, you're probably gonna like 4%.
but what between 23 and 24, you got, well, let's think about the realization of this fund, okay? If it doesn't break even because these fees won't cover the new courthouse, it's coming from the general fund anyway, so it's not gonna truly go in deficit. Ever. We've had the same issue before, it won't, when you add large new buildings, and if you look at the difference between 23 and 24 alone, look how much you picked up.
Yeah, that's right. I just remember when we were sitting down working through this, we looked 3 years out, and we were still well under deficit. Just the amount that we were burning less than revenues that difference was decreasing, but we were, it did not have that big change.
1.1 is too, probably. Yeah, the 794 is probably a little high, but your 1.1's budget, and we're not gonna spend 100% of budget, that's what I say.
Yeah, no, you're gonna be at 92, 93.
So if we're 92, 93, we could times that by 0.9.
Yeah, but
and then pull a 3% trend, and that would be more realistic to what you're probably
You
gonna
can
see.
do it that way on the trend, but I don't wanna get in the habit of doing that in the budget itself.
Well, this is being pulled from the budget, but this is a support sheet, so you're not going.
You can, if you wanna make like a modifier to do it on just this sheet.
That's what I'm saying, put a
Yeah,
times
that's
0.9
fine.
right there, basically,
That's
and see what it
fine.
does.
That's okay.
On the AB, when you're on.
That's okay. I just don't wanna change it into actual budget.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Okay,
Because these aren't true. Okay.
all right.
Because that looks much better, and then the other thing is if you look between 26 and 27, I think it's skewed significantly because of the opening of the new courthouse, so I would probably multiply that by,
0.6.
not that much, probably like 0.9 again. You'd probably take out a lot of the skew.
It's just because this is, it's a change, right? You're not gonna open a new courthouse.
You're trying to make it linear and.
You're trying to get like a smooth curve. And when you have that big change from opening a courthouse, like that's a.
You're not gonna have
It's
some
just a,
smooth
it's
curve
just.
with the big change.
Yeah,
Right.
but it smooths out over time because I'm not opening a courthouse every year.
That's still too much. It ain't gonna bring me 1.3. That's the verification number. Or you could take 103% of that 107.32, like I was saying earlier, because I think when you put that two numbers right there back into that trend, well, it's gonna keep the trend, but they're still gonna skew that trend significantly over the 10 years, so I think really, if you take L and you did times 1.03 and then the one beside that, you're gonna get a more realistic to probably what you're gonna see. A lot of things have inflation, but a lot of versions maintenance contracts, bid, and utilities.
One-time change in cost.
Right, so if I would do plus L times 1.03 and then do copy it over there, and I think that's.
And honestly, this big salary bump that we're doing, it is also a big change that we're not gonna do year over year, but don't mess with that.
Yeah, I'll do the one beside it, yeah. Go down now. So that's what I'm thinking, unless their fees start increasing somewhere around 27, 28, you're gonna have to start moving some expense over to the general fund. That's probably pretty realistic.
But that's realistic, 27, 28,
Because the
29.
fees aren't growing quick enough to cover the new building.
Yeah. That's probably realistic.
Yeah, it's according to, we may have the new buildings expenses high, we had to estimate those, and we were conservative. Because we really don't know, we based it on Rutherford County's numbers conservatively.
Okay, so, do y'all have any questions on this?
Plus, you've got some costs for the old building that may be shut down at some point.
The other one that's, go back to.
Well, you still got the deficit, so you'll want to resolve that, but maybe something you want to look at.
The thing we need to resolve it with is the 5 million.
That's the general fund, but I mean, this one still shows a deficit too. You don't want to show a deficit in the long-term plan. So we can decrease the expense and say it's going over to the general fund, maybe the best thing.
Why would that, but that's not realistic, right?
if the fund don't break even, the general fund's gonna pay it. It's pretty much realization what's gonna
That's where it
happen.
comes from.
That's really what's gonna happen.
And can I throw up one
Go
more
ahead.
expense that we found out this week in insurance? Our deductible has went up from 25,000 to 100,000 per incident.
Yes.
And this is a big thing, if we have, so like the flood damage last year, 25,000 was our deductible. Now, our new insurance, it's 100.
So if we broke another fire sprinkler
It's
pipe,
100, yeah.
what was the total cost of that?
Well,
It's
Well, the
350.
deductible's what I'm,
Yeah.
and we don't have
I'm
enough.
not
I
saying
think
that's
it was
not, I'm not saying that's
350.
not important, it is, but
350.
I'm just trying to.
I know, I'm just saying
What's the-
if we're close and we
what's the
don't
way,
have all of it.
I would go up there on that expense and minus 261,081 and then minus 5, whatever the difference is on the next one, because what happens in reality, this fund cannot show a deficit, so it's gonna be covered by the general fund.
I mean, that's
That's all we have to do.
It's not,
So
it's
look
not,
up on there and
it's not a
Yeah.
huge number,
I mean,
but,
I don't like, I'm not.
But we can up the revenues, but I don't know if that's real.
well, I
It's not
mean,
okay.
The county is growing at a little bit higher rate, but
they already changed some fees. I mean, they're not, the fees aren't gonna be changed enough to like.
not short term.
They're not, only,
And then we'll go back and revisit the general fund on the 15th probably, because I'll change the 5.2 and look at then I'll come back with some different proposals that'll get you back
dude,
to.
that, I'm like seeing spots.
Oh, I'll put that thing down, I got it off.
No, I know, it's just still.
Well, we bought it the way it would show up on the screen. Not
Yeah,
reflective.
something happened.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get another one. 122 should break even. 151 is gonna show really excess. We need to adjust that 5 point. Is not breaking even.
What do those numbers
Yes,
mean,
Break it
David?
in, you're good.
What numbers?
122, 151?
That is the fund number that's used by the state to designate.
Okay, so it's, okay.
General fund, courthouse. and
Yeah, it's just an
general
abbreviation,
control.
yeah.
It's-
I'm sorry, yeah, they got their numbers on the left corner of the fund.
Which one is this?
Debt service, and we need to adjust down the revenue by the recurring
Yeah.
5 point in the sales tax, and that'll be,
Yeah.
we'll bring you back that next month, but it'll
That's
be a
fine.
positive in the long run.
Yeah, that one, this is one.
So 131 is one you do need to look at. That's when you gotta consider what you're gonna consider as your long-term trends.
What's 131?
Highway.
Highway, okay.
Sorry, I can look good.
Well, yeah, but this is why we wanted to do the 20 million. This is why we wanted to do it this way.
The question is, do you want to pull out of his, if you're gonna do the 20 million, it's gonna change his trajectory, do you wanna show some decreases in expenses for 26, 7, and 8?
I think so, right? I
So
mean,
let's click up onto where the asphalt's at, which would be under.
yeah, pull it all out of asphalt, because he should be, we're setting that $20 million in a big bucket, he should be able to eat off of that. And we ought to be able to pull it off of his asphalt.
Pull it off the 5.4.
And that's actually gonna reduce his MOE over time and let it surge all of that forward.
428, 258 there.
This is, guys, this right here is why that $20 million is, this is why we did
428,000,
it
whatever
this
the
way.
name is there.
This is why we proposed it.
To balance the budget.
To balance, it, so you surging all of that forward, this hot mix is not gonna do anything except get more expensive. You're gonna put it into one spot. David and I argued, and CTAS agreed with me, that doesn't increase his MOE. So you're basically letting us, in a way, you're almost like writing off a lot of that asphalt.
How does it not increase the MOE? It just doesn't?
Because we're not putting it to his fund.
Because it's a
We're putting it in
capital expense from the county commission.
By
It's not from them.
statute, it does, but by the way they read it at CTASC, it doesn't.
So it's kind of, I
And
mean.
I talked to him 3 times, and that's just the way we read it, even though it doesn't agree with the statute.
So you and David were on one side, me and CTAS were on the other, we're going with CTAS.
And then until,
So I'm not an
like
attorney,
3 or 4
I win.
3 or 4 years down the road, I just wanna let you know, or even next year, if
So
highway
that would
decides
fix
they
it.
want
That
it
fixes
read
it.
by the
There we go.
statute,
Let's look at
they
171
can go
now.
back and
All right,
recoup that, and
that
then
was
we'll
the
be
big
adding
one.
maintenance of effort.
Well, 171 has a lot of
$4 million
future
a year to
requests,
road.
let's
That's
see
a
if it
good
still
road.
breaks even right now. Pull down, see how it looks, Miss Bethany. Go
So let's
across.
be careful.
Yeah.
Let's take the careful.
And we gotta account for those tax changes every one time. but
It's not gonna change that. So you go to the-
Well, we'll come back with the tax changes next time. It'll affect general and
So
that.
I wanna make sure that when we're taking that down, that he still has money for bridges. I'm concerned about bridges. And I know you're saying hot mix, but I know we got bridges that need repaired too. So I just wanna make sure that there's,
lot
I
of
guess
them.
concrete, we got a lot of bridge problems. So, I mean,
The idea is
I
to
guess
all
he
be-
can come back and tell us on the 15th if that's
Yeah,
going
let's
on.
do that.
Question for Toby on.
Let's let Toby come back on the 15th and bring that to us. That's
I just
fine.
wanna make sure he's got what he needs.
Yeah, no, I just gotta make sure. this-
How's the highway fund?
That's what we just looked at.
Oh, yeah.
If the 20 million helps.
What did y'all do? I was over
We,
here
well,
having
we
a,
went
we
ahead
were
and did that. We
discussing.
pulled
it.
all, we pulled all of the
Oh, to
increases.
fix it.
We said, all right, we could get up to 20 million for the next 3 years, so we pulled that out. We pulled out the increases to hot mix.
What now? Just decreased his asphalt number by that much.
Yeah.
Matt, there's one thing, the sheriff's department, since it said any and all items for the budget that I want to bring to your attention. But as of July 1, they can receive an $800 retention that's flow-through money, $103,200, and it wasn't in our budget because we found out
Is that
last
all pass-through?
week. Can we put
Yes,
$103,200
bring it in.
revenue and expenditures and also?
Anybody, without
benefits?
objection, anybody?
Where's that coming, is that from
The state or?
Comes from the state, I got a copy of it here. for
State,
you.
we're good.
They made me aware of it today, and it's a retention bonus of $800 per officer, and if you don't approve it, it's gonna hold it up till whenever.
Without objection.
It'll be an amendment in August. So we can pay it after the budget's
Go
approved in
ahead, put it.
July,
I don't see an objection.
if it's approved in July. Is anybody-
Okay.
that's my call.
I think that's all we need for this one, right? Are we good with this?
I think you're good to 15th.
I think we're good to go ahead and
I
publish
think
this for the, for review.
Well, you'll send out to the
Yeah,
department
then they're
heads.
gonna, no, not publish, but publish for review so that the, departments can come back.
We'll try to publish it immediately after the no, whatever changes you make the night on the 15th, we'll put it the
All right.
next day in the paper. When do we have to have the paper right?
So,
The next morning.
We have to submit it on the 16th.
We have to submit it that next morning by noon, so whatever changes you make, we'll submit the next morning for the newspaper.
so let's go ahead and discuss these. And is there anything else we want to tie off on this?
We've all got a lot of emails lately about the parking downtown. Can we put some money into the budget for parking signs for that library? I don't know what signs cost.
They already have signs. so no parking.
It says, and it just doesn't.
Well,
It's not
Already
working.
have signage going up.
So then we're still getting, okay.
Well, you got a quick.
Go
Good
ahead.
to
So,
know.
Go ahead.
speaking of libraries, would there be a chance we could revisit?
I
think
mean,
it was
we
you
were
and
on
me
the, I was on
losing
the,
side,
I was
but-
on the, I mean,
I would
the
like
only
to
way we could
consider-
reconsider is if the prevailing side wants to do it.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna make that
Reconsider what?
The change for 10% for the libraries.
libraries, because I've had a lot of feedback.
Reconsider, you're
I
past
mean-
that meeting, then you can make a motion.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna bring up something if it already got voted down. I mean, well, you can bring.
Well, I'm just gonna take another crack at it.
All right,
Make
what's
a
your
motion to consider reopening Hendersonville, not reopening, Hendersonville, Millersville, Westmoreland, and Portland 4 more hours. Based on the feedback I've gotten just in my district, I can't speak for Portland or your district, but a lot of people in Hendersonville have been wanting this for years.
So is it,
I could support that if I could add an amendment that we stretch it to 6 days a week.
Hey, if it gets it done and it gets the citizens 4 more hours, I'll.
If we could be open six days a week, I can support this.
so,
And I'm on the other side, so I can.
I mean, if that's what it's gonna take.
we don't have a second yet.
Terry, that's gonna raise MOE, it's gonna be more
I'll
utilities.
second it, we'll go ahead and, we'll have discussion, we're trying to clear all this out. So I've seconded it, we've got an amendment, your amendment was to go 6 days a week, so.
I would only be in favor of this if it meant we could open 6 days a week. What I found out with my research in the libraries is that a city over 50,000, which we have in Hendersonville, should be open a total of 60 hours a week. We're only open 40 there. And they also recommend open 6 days, if not 7 days, and we're only open 5.
David, what was the amount difference that it was if we were gonna do that 10%?
I think it was $200-some-thousand.
Was it that? I thought it was 180.
It was around 200,000. I'd have to go back.
It was non-trivial.
Because you were discussing about that they had decreased their original request, they would decrease their original request by that much, and that would be enough to cover it, but I believe it was between 180 and 2, but
I thought it was right around 180, because I think their request was, Hendersonville alone had a request for, I think, 210. And what my proposal was to do was to spread that out to all the different libraries. I think it would be very difficult for them to be open that full amount of time if we wanted to give them 10%, frankly. I don't, because I could, but the 180, I think we could have done, because it's kind of like what Mr. Mansfield says, right? I mean,
Yeah, no, I can't. I mean, I can't just put 4 more hours on the 5 days. If we're open 6 days, and we give people more time, more days
and
to
it'd
get
be more, I
in.
mean, we'd have to figure out where this comes from.
So maybe this is something we work on this year with
But
the
I can
library.
tell you, I can just tell you from the feedback I've gotten, some citizens are like, hey, if we could just, like Hendersonville has 2 nights that's only open till 6 and 2 nights are open to 8. A lot of citizens said, well, maybe just take those 2 nights and put 2 hours on those 2 nights to increase from 6 to 8 o'clock. Other ideas was maybe extending the hours on. It was not a 6-day thing. For them, it was extending
So
hours.
it-
even
I mean,
on
I was
existing
shocked when I
days.
saw that the recommendation was 60 hours a week for
Here's
for
what
a
I-
population of 50,000.
here's what I mean, what-
It was it's a recommendation, not a requirement, but it's a service.
Here's what I'd like to do, here's how maybe I'd like to do this, and I'll make this amendment. I would like to earmark $180,000 of additional funding contingent on a plan that has at least 10% increase of coverage by those libraries, and then they're gonna have to come back and present.
Yeah, I can't support it without
Well,
it today.
that's okay.
I mean, you got other people.
I just don't mean, we'll see. I mean, I think it's probably gonna fail, but you wanna try again, I'll try again.
That's, you know, I'm like, that's, with respect to Commissioner Boyd, I mean, I get you, you've got
Some people, you
good
know, need more
intentions, but,
days.
I can
Well,
just
no,
say
no,
And I'm going
Hendersonville.
with the state recommendation, and I'm only going halfway there.
By the way, I'm not saying that they necessarily need to have 10% for everybody. They could do it your way, right, with those that have higher population centers. I'm not giving them directive. I'm saying, bring us back with a plan for how we will get additional hours. That's my amendment.
And I want an additional day, so. it's
Well,
different.
I mean,
It's all good, we
just-
can move on.
well, I gotta take a vote. So all in favor of this?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, so I figured that was gonna go that way. All right, so we've done that. We have this, yeah, let's do a 5-minute break and then we'll come back to do schools. Quick break. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and keep us in our rules, and I'm gonna make a motion because I don't normally make motions in my own committee here, but I wanted to discuss here, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve something. Literally, having talked with, David and Dr. Langford just now. And I'm gonna explain kind of what I'm doing here and why I'm making this motion. So, having listened to the, school board meeting, I came into here prepared to be pretty hardcore because we cannot deal with more, recurring funding. And I've just outlined, I think, why. We would begin to, the trajectory that we were on has a narrow window to be able to keep us from having a near to midterm tax increase, right? 3 to 4 year, we can't really project out more than that. Right here, you know, where we sit, we're fine. But if we were to dump, you know, a $7.5 or even a $5.5 million recurring expense on top of it, knowing that there will be additional recurring the year after that, I knew we would be on a bad path. So I was in no way able to support a year-over-year recurring increase. However, after talking with Dr. Langford, my understanding, and I'll open this up and let him speak in a minute, my understanding here is that the schools could handle, the schools have asked for $5.4 million, and it does not have to be recurring. So speaking with David, we do have about $13 million, I think, in capital that is unallocated at this moment. I would like to make a motion to provide $5.4 million to the schools in capital one time out of that capital fund. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. I know there's going to be a lot of discussion. Go ahead.
Is that before we even see their budget, or, I mean, we're just like,
I mean, we can.
is that, I'm just asking because I don't know what the
You can
protocol is.
you can make it contingent on something. I just wanted to
I
make the
don't know.
motion so we can discuss it. So, do we want to open the floor? How do y'all want to handle this? What do we want to do?
Open the floor for discussion.
All right. What do you want to, do we want to suspend the rules? Or we want to
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Everyone's here, let's go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Let's count those. Who is in favor of suspending the rules?
Myself.
1, 2, 3, and who is against? 4, okay. So we failed to be able to suspend the rules. Any more discussion on this? Go ahead.
What's it for?
Well, I'd like to.
That's why
That's
I
why we
opened it for
wanted to
discussion. I wanted to
open
hear
discussion.
from
Okay.
Dr. Langford, if you, and just,
So we don't have anything other than,
Well, we have we had the presentation from the school board. And my understanding of it was that it's a combination of salary and an increase in what was required for the bleachers. So, I mean, it's something of a combination. So, I mean, that's my understanding. I don't want to put words in Dr. Langford's mouth, given that he's here. That's why I voted to suspend the rules.
and if I
So,
can.
go ahead.
No, the reason why I wanted to allow him to speak tonight, just to see, cut through the noise and just see what that money is exactly gonna be going towards. Is it just for bleachers, the extra 5? I mean, where are we at? Just really wanna know that, you know, that, because I'll tell you, salary-wise, I mean, I've discussed this with both Commissioner Mansfield and Schoaf when I went on to the Education Committee, that, and I'll be totally upfront with everybody here, I'll have to abstain when it comes to salary. As you know, my wife works for the schools, and it's not because I'm trying to play this side and that side. It's just that, from my understanding, this is a significant raise. And I'll go on record as saying I've spoken to many people in the schools. When I pick up my son, I speak to people at the school she works at, and they do, I'll just say, they do deserve the raise. Now, am I sound like I'm being in favoritism? No. I'm just saying they do. When I pick up my son, I hear, even if we can get to, and I'll just throw these numbers at, even if you can't get to $18 an hour, if we could just get halfway there, it would make a world of difference for the employees. This is the feedback I'm getting, and that's what I look for. I'm not trying to play one side or the other. I just want to hear from people and see where their heads are at. So as far as the salaries, that's where they're at. But like I said, the final one, I would have to abstain. But I do realize that in order to get it to the commission floor, if I abstain here, that only hinders things. So by moving it forward to the commission, that's where we can debate it on the floor. And that's why I would be in favor of.
So I'm just gonna make my comment here, like why I moved to do this. Literally, I talked to Dr. Langford 10 minutes ago, and I pointed out, I said, you see our trajectory, you see why I can't do it. And Dr. Langford said, well, is it possible you could do a one-time capital? I think that was exactly the discussion. It literally happened on the spot. And one-time capital to me, it's a very, very different way to solve a problem. It's one time, we have it. It will not increase our maintenance of effort. And I don't know, I think we can do it. So that's my motion. Anybody have any other comments on it, or are we just gonna vote? All right, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've spoken to my school board member. I've been told by him there's money in the budget for whatever this extra need is. There's money for the salary increases. The state's given money 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. We've given money for $7.5 million for salary increases for teachers. So I don't want this being spun that, oh no, you didn't approve $5.4 million capital. You hate teachers. You're not giving teachers raises, because it's an absolute lie. And so I've been told by my school board member that money is there. I've spoken to school administrators. That money is there to work with. When you look at adding all administrative bloat on the top end, there was a motion to reduce six employees at the administrative office for around $636,000. And if you're trying to bring teachers up to the mandated minimum 2 years early to $50,000, because it's the 26-27 fiscal school year where that comes in play. I mean, if you cut 6 positions, new positions being requested, that's almost 300 teachers that you can bring those salaries up to $50,000 base pay. And so you're asking for, I'm an employee and asking for new things, and plus is a new ask right here at the table, and I haven't seen other things, and I'm going to be voting on this because I'm going to talk to my school board member and talk to. So I'm not in support of this right now at the last minute, throwing it on the table. I'm just not going to do it.
I can move to defer it. Go ahead.
This is another thing, though, that we could appropriate $100 million to the school, and we couldn't guarantee that one penny would go to teachers, right?
You can't, I mean, at the end of the day, we can't. I mean, it's the school board's job to be able to do that. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Capital fees for capital.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Brown.
mean, we gave 15.8 million last October. Of that 15.8 million, 3.066 million has already been spent. And now we're getting another 5.4 million. And with all that 15.8, we had field houses, locker rooms, tracks. Now we're just down to bleachers. Just bleachers. I've got a problem.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Any, all right, I'll make one more comment, because I did say, I mean, look, it didn't get done on time, right? I mean, I made that comment, we said, hey, is this gonna get done on time? I knew that timeline was ridiculous, I knew it wasn't gonna happen. But most of what I care about, and I knew it wasn't gonna happen, I knew that we weren't gonna have new bleachers, and that we weren't gonna have all that done.
We were told we would.
I know, but it didn't happen, and I agree with that. However, to me, recurring expenses and change to MOE is radically different than one time. And so I'm much more comfortable with one than the other, but if people aren't, then let's just take a vote on it. Any others?
Yeah.
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
and I'm just gonna state that, you know, look, it's like I said Monday night. And I know, look, I'm thick-skinned, I'll get criticized, so be it, but I said, you know, there's two sides to this. There's the side, and this is what I'm hearing from my district, and you can agree or disagree. This is reality, and I deal in reality. Citizens want the bleachers. The citizens like what they see. Then I get the other side, I'll be honest, they're afraid of the
Citizens don't
tax
like tax
increase.
increases.
And I get it, and I'm not gonna vote for a tax increase. But, I mean, this is why I motioned to have Dr. Langford talk, because I'm not trying to play both sides. I'm trying to keep the communication open and bring everybody to the table. Whether we leave here tonight and agree or disagree, that's irrelevant. People, how do you know if you agree if you're not listening? If you're not listening, you don't know where anyone stands, and look, that's y'all's prerogative. But to me, I've seen this done in another case where a judge wanted to speak and some people voted no. I don't get that part. If we're not listening and talking and working out the differences, I don't see it. And like, again, we may leave here with nothing, but that's why I made the motion with you to have them speak.
Any other points on it? Okay, go ahead.
So I'm listening to my school board member, and I'm listening to my constituents. And my school board member has told me that there is funds available for the overages in the current budget. And there was motions made to rectify things that were denied when they could have been done at the school board level. This is the school board's problem to solve, not the county commission's. And they've got the funds to do it, and I disagree, because I've been listening. So I take personal offense to say that we're not listening, because that's not true.
I didn't say that. I said,
It's all right, it's all right.
I got the floor. I got the floor. So I caution you to be careful on saying people aren't listening, because we are listening to our constituents. You might be hearing something different. And I'm listening to my school board member, and I'm listening to my constituents. And I'm listening to school administrators. And so there is funding there. It is available, even for the overages. It was argued for that. And I am not comfortable with this ask right here for this body at this moment, last minute on the spot for $5.4 million. Just okay. Now I'm not okay with that. I think
well, I was just kind of
All right,
curious.
wait,
I got the floor.
This is not hold on, go ahead. We'll finish this.
So,
and then we'll go, and I'm just gonna
so my point is, I'm not okay with this. I know that this is, I just don't think it's the right thing to do. I think it's a wrong ask.
So here's what I'm gonna do, because it is a fair point that we had a lot of time to do this. So what I'd like to do is defer this to the July meeting. So folks have a chance to consider it, watch the school board meeting. It may not change anybody's vote, but just a fair point to come and change it. Literally, I mean, I came up with it after talking with Dr. Langford now and understanding that it was a difference between that it was not necessarily an ask for recurring funding. That kind of changes my thought on it. It may not change everybody's, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna withdraw my motion. I'm just gonna withdraw my motion, and we're gonna put that on, Mr. Juan, we're gonna go ahead and put that on for the, consider doing the next round of meetings.
Can we get some documentation?
Yes, can we, I'm sure the schools will provide.
I'm gonna object.
Okay.
The school board budget should be presented at the next meeting anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna be presented.
It should have the joint education.
It's everything, okay, so it's online as is.
And Mr. Chairman, real quick, I was not suggesting that you weren't listening to your constituents. My point was to go on, maybe something changed between then and now that you had some new information and I wanted to hear.
We're gonna put it on the next time.
Okay.
We have time to research it. It's a fair point that, like, I kinda came up with this and put it out there very quickly. We'll just wait. All right, any others on this? Dave, is there anything else we need to do?
Not tonight, we'll,
All right.
notice.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Abstain.
There we go.